Chapter 348. He's not here. She raised her eyes and looked at the 9 steps erected at the side. The pagoda door at the top of the steps had already been pushed open. She pondered. Shitian told me that there are 9 levels in the exquisite creation pagoda. This is the first level. When I came in earlier, the door to the second level was closed. Now that it has been pushed open, he has gone to the second level. In the blink of an eye, she had already summarized all the information that she could see, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. Feeling the inexplicable irritation in her heart, she no longer hesitated and quickly walked up the 9 steps. Although her footsteps were hurried, it seemed that no matter when, her posture and temperament were perfect and ever-changing. When she reached the top of the steps, her expression was slightly stunned. However, in the blink of an eye, she continued to walk forward. Step by step, it seemed that she did not stop at all. Just like that, she calmly walked up the 9 steps and entered the door. The scenery in front of her changed. She had already entered the second level of the pagoda. The emerald green grass appeared in front of her like a wave. Shitian. Suddenly, her gaze congealed as her mouth unconsciously let out a cry of surprise. Even her usually indifferent state of mind that was rarely affected by external matters had also become flustered in an instant. She quickly ran forward without a care for her image. In front of her was shockingly Sakra's figure that had fallen to the ground. Although she wasn't clear what had happened to him, she could see that his body was constantly twitching and was filled with pain. How could she not know that he was definitely experiencing inhuman pain? Even he could not resist and fainted. Bang! However, just as she was about to approach Di Shitian, a purple light suddenly burst out and instantly covered her entire body. A mysterious force immediately pushed Chen Shi's body away from Di Shitian. The purple light contained an extremely powerful force. Even the light of dawn was unable to break through it and was forcibly pushed away. However, it did not have any intention of hurting her. Chen Shi's expression was flustered, and a trace of anxiety flashed in his eyes. A kind of worry that he had never felt before inexplicably surged into his heart. She didn't know why, but when she saw Sakra fainted on the ground and lost consciousness, a kind of anxiety and agitation emerged in her heart. It was something that she had never felt before. To put it bluntly, her heart was in a mess. How could this be? Chen Shi's mind was in a mess. For a moment, he didn't know what to think. Looking at Di Shitian, who was shrouded in purple light, he didn't dare to act rashly, but his concern was obvious. She didn't understand why such an inexplicable accident would happen in such a short time. And at this moment, Sakra's entire consciousness was in that wave after wave of continuous pain, and he simply fainted. Indeed, this kind of pain had completely exceeded the maximum limit that his body could bear. His body fainted to protect itself, and shut off the perception of his whole body. But what he didn't know was that at this moment, a miraculous and extremely dangerous change was occurring in his body. In the place where the purple king mark had been, a purple vertical eye had mysteriously appeared. It stood upside down, looking exactly like the legendary 3-eyed Erlang Shun. The only difference was that the eyes were different. This purple eye flashed with a strange light, completely replacing the original king mark. If one could see through it, they would discover that within this purple eye, countless tiny threads were fusing into the surroundings. It was like a real eye, fusing into the body and connecting with the surrounding nerves to form a third eye. As the violet eye fused with Meng Hao's body, the king mark space began to crumble, as if it couldn't withstand the pressure emanating from the violet eye. Strangely, the crumbling wasn't a true collapse. Instead, as the crumbling pieces of the space began to fuse with the violet eye, or rather, they were being devoured by the violet eye. Di Shitian felt 2 types of pain. One was the sudden collapse of the king mark space, causing boundless pain. The other was the purple eye squeezing into his forehead. It was the same as trying to forcibly stuff something that didn't belong to him into his head. The terrifying aura coming from the purple eye was the main culprit. Bullshit. Which bastard imprisoned me in this damned place? Which old bastard did this behind my back? This is too sinister. Just what kind of place is this? Master, oh master, I wonder if you've reincarnated. If you've reincarnated, You definitely have to take revenge for Shang and save me. Shang still wants to follow you in battle. Back in the day, I followed my master to roam the heavens and earth unhindered. Who didn't tremble in fear at the mention of my arrival? Back then, I was invincible in the Devilfall battlefield. It must be some old bastard who did this behind the scenes. He even took me out of my body and threw me into this damned place. Don't let me out. When I have a chance to leave, when I find my master's reincarnation, I definitely have to find him. I can't suffer this loss for nothing. How many years has it been? I wonder if anyone still remembers the mighty name of Shang. Also, how is my body now? In the purple eye, roars of venting could be heard continuously, but they could not be transmitted to the outside of the purple eye. If one looked closely, they would discover that there was a unique space in the purple eye. There was nothing in the space except for a vigorous blood dragon. The blood dragon had 5 claws under its body, and a bloody light was circulating around it. It seemed to have a strong smell of blood. The dragon's whiskers danced in the void, and its eyes were filled with hatred as it glared at the void. Its entire body exuded a ferocious aura of slaughter. If an ordinary person were to be glared at by it, their blood vessels would explode and they would die. Even cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand its fierce gaze. The roars were coming from its mouth. Those roars were filled with grievance. Rumble. The void suddenly trembled violently a few times. The originally lifeless space seemed to have an inexplicable vitality. It was like a pool of stagnant water suddenly turning into flowing water. This change made the blood dragon so excited that its body trembled. It laughed wildly and said, "Haha, you trapped me. This damned space finally has a connection to the outside. I, Shang, can finally leave." After a burst of wild laughter, the blood dragon waved its body excitedly and muttered to itself, "Let me see what the hell is trapping me." As the blood dragon spoke, it immediately extended its dragon claw and slashed at the void. A crack appeared in the void and it stuck its head out to look outside. However, it immediately withdrew its head. Bastard, which damned bastard actually dared to seal me, the Hell Lord, inside this damned bead? However, why haven't I seen those purple eyes before? Which bastard did such an immoral thing? Good fortune, hehe, this is really good fortune. This is actually the body of a demon, and he has even fainted. Although I have been sealed for so many years and my strength has dropped to the lowest point, since he has fainted, I can seize this body and use it to slowly search for my original body. The blood dragon cursed while secretly rejoicing. He had just checked and found that the body he was in was the body of a demon. Moreover, this demon body was abnormally strong. Even the demon vein was formed, and the demon palace was even more amazing. It was a heaven-quality demon palace that was extremely rare even in ancient times. If he used the possession method to steal this body, he would be able to recover faster. Without even thinking, he directly tore open the void and charged into the demon palace. As for Di Shitian, because he had fainted, he didn't know that a blood dragon had unknowingly rushed into his demon palace. The blood dragon entered the demon palace and looked around. He clicked his tongue and laughed strangely. What a demon palace, what a heaven-quality demon palace. Back then, my master's demon palace was also heaven quality. However, I am a weapon soul, and this body is only temporarily for me. When I find my original body, it will be better. I don't know who you are, but you are unlucky today. The blood dragon roared and circled around the demon palace. His dragon eyes stared at the demon refining cauldron in the center. He reached out his dragon claw, grabbed the lid of the cauldron, and threw it out. With a move of his body, he entered the cauldron. As soon as he entered the cauldron, he immediately saw the third-grade black lotus that was constantly rotating in the cauldron. A strange look flashed in his eyes, as if he had never seen such a demon core before. However, he naturally couldn't stop because of this. With a swing of his dragon tail, he let out a dragon roar and rushed into the black lotus. The demon race cultivated a demon core. When condensing the demon core, the essence, energy, and spirit of the entire body would be condensed in the inner core. The inner core was equivalent to the primordial spirit. The blood dragon wanted to possess the black lotus, so naturally, he was targeting it. Roar. In the blink of an eye, the blood dragon that had just entered immediately rushed out of the black lotus. The dragon roar that it let out had the same kind of fear, as if it had encountered something quite terrifying. A trace of fear appeared in its eyes. Who is it? Who is this? Too crazy. This guy is too crazy. Desire, the power of desire, he dares to smelt it into the inner core. Is this demon cultivation or curse cultivation? Bastard, lunatic, all of them are F***king lunatics. Could it be that after being sealed for so many years, the world has changed? They actually dare to touch the power of desire. You almost scared this old dragon to death, my little sweetheart. The blood dragon didn't even turn his head. He directly rushed out of the demon residence and went into the purple eye. He looked frightened. One of his dragon claws pressed against his chest, and he looked like he was afraid. His expression was full of frustration. It was difficult to hide the shock in his eyes. The possession was scrapped halfway. The blood dragon was unwilling to give up and wanted to think of a way to leave the purple eye. However, the strange thing was that he couldn't leave the purple eye at all, or he couldn't leave the body that the purple eye was in. It was as if there was some mysterious connection between him and the purple eye. It was as if they had become one, and it was difficult to break away. There was a feeling of being bound. He had tried all sorts of methods, but none of them worked. He couldn't help but feel frustrated. Staying in this strange space, he was dispirited. He secretly cursed the old monster who had captured and imprisoned him here. At this time, the purple eye between his eyebrows seemed to have completely merged with Di. All the changes gradually disappeared, and the sharp pain in his body also disappeared in an instant. The purple light outside his body quickly fell into the purple eye on his forehead, and all of it disappeared. After the last ray of purple light disappeared, the purple eye closed. Only a vertical purple line was left on his forehead. At the same time, the king pattern reappeared. It was just that the king pattern was all around the purple line, turning into a vertical purple mark. It was even more mysterious. Di let out a muffled snort and quickly opened his eyes. In an instant, he subconsciously touched his forehead. When he touched the purple mark, his eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. He glanced in front of him, and he already understood. Shitian, how are you? Are you okay? Seeing Di sit up on the grass, Chen Shi, who was originally full of worry, immediately returned to his original expression. He forced himself to be calm and asked, but his eyes evaded, as if he wanted to hide all his previous emotions. She hesitated, but still moved forward and stretched out her snow-white hand, wanting to pull him up from the ground. But Di shook his head and waved his hand, saying, "No need. Help me guard for the time being. I want to investigate what happened to my body just now." He had not forgotten the scene of the purple eye suddenly rushing into his body. When he touched the purple mark on his forehead, he clearly felt that there was another eye in the purple mark. He felt that as long as he wanted to, he could open this eye at any time, but he had a feeling that doing so would be extremely dangerous. Chen Shi looked at him deeply, nodded, and stood to the side, saying, "Be careful." After saying that, he really stood to the side to guard him. He sat down cross-legged. His consciousness entered his body, directly entering the purple mark. As soon as he entered, he could clearly see that mysterious purple eye. That purple eye flickered with a mysterious charm. My king rune space, my innate divine ability, the souls I absorbed, where are they? Have they really been completely destroyed? Di heart turned cold. Here, all he could see was a purple eye. The original king rune space, the original innate divine ability, seemed to have completely disappeared with the collapse of the king rune space. This fact was hard for him to accept. All this time, his innate divine ability had been a trump card at the bottom of his chest. He also knew that his innate divine ability still had the potential to become even more powerful, and could still evolve. But at this moment, it had completely collapsed, completely destroyed by this unknown purple eye. Even though his heart was tough, he still felt a deep sense of loss and disbelief. Violet eye, what exactly is this violet eye? As soon as it entered, it immediately destroyed my king rune space and took away my innate divine ability. Could it be that this violet eye is even more mysterious than my innate divine ability? Or is it replacing my king rune space, my innate divine ability? However, his disappointment only lasted for an instant. He saw even further, and saw how mysterious and powerful the violet eye was. Its power was definitely above his own king pattern space. Calming himself, he entered the purple eye. In a split second, the purple mark on his forehead suddenly opened, and the purple eye that was originally closed opened. The purple eye that was upside down looked abnormally demonic. When he looked at it, he felt a soul-stirring power. It was as if his divine soul was about to fly out of his body and directly into the purple eye. After a long time, that strange purple eye mysteriously closed just like when it opened, and once again turned into a purple mark. Sakura also opened his eyes, and a strange light flashed through his eyes, revealing traces of astonishment, as if there was also a kind of inconceivable surprise. So that's how it is. I didn't expect to profit from a disaster. Although I lost the king rune space, I was compensated with this mysterious purple eye. With it, I finally have a divine ability that I can rely on. Although I can't use it often, it can be used as a life-saving divine ability. Taking a deep breath, he touched the purple mark on his forehead. He didn't know whether he should be happy or disappointed. But he was even more curious about this purple eye. He didn't know just what kind of expert could refine such a divine eye. Its power was so strong that it could be called heaven-defying. It even seemed to be able to grow with him. It was a priceless treasure that he had obtained by accident. The instant the purple eye fused with his body, it had completely fused with him. It was as if it had been there since birth. What he was curious about was how he had obtained such an eye. However, there seems to be another mysterious place in the purple eye, as if it's imprisoning something. Sakura muttered a few words to himself and didn't say anything more. He closed his eyes again and put his mind into the purple eye. Following a trace of strange feeling, he quickly entered the mysterious place that he had sensed. Swish! In almost an instant, his consciousness shook and he appeared in a strange space. What made Sakura shocked was that he suddenly saw two huge eyes that were even bigger than a lantern. They were bright and dazzling, and it was terrifying. "Who are you?" Di Shitian took a deep breath and immediately retreated. He felt that he could completely control this space and easily teleport to a place far away. When he fixed his eyes in front of him, he asked with supreme power, "You're the owner of this body? You're the lunatic who dared to fuse the power of desire into his Niden?" While retreating, Sakura saw the creature in front of him clearly, but he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, as if he saw something inconceivable. A blood dragon, a blood-colored divine dragon that was thousands of feet long, suddenly appeared in front of him. It really gave him a rather shocking feeling. And in that instant, the blood dragon also spat out a sentence that was like thunder, with a trace of bad luck in its tone. However, it was also a little excited. Its two giant dragon eyes stared at Di Shitian and sized him up as if it wanted to see if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. When it discovered that Di Shitian had cultivated the power of desire, in the eyes of the blood dragon, he was a complete lunatic. He was the biggest lunatic in the world. "Who are you? Why are there dragons in purple eyes?" Di Shitian frowned slightly and asked again in shock. While the blood dragon was sizing him up, he was also sizing it up. If you want to know who I am, you better stand still and listen carefully." The blood dragon general raised his head and said proudly, "I'm the one and only soul artifact in the world, the one and only, the one who has been invincible since ancient times, the one who has scared thousands of creatures, Shong. My body is the strongest treasure in the world." To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 349. Underworld Scripture. The blood dragon raised its head and proudly spat out those 2 words. It was as if those 2 words contained a supreme power that could deter the entire universe. His words were filled with pride as if he was proud of this and felt boundless glory. Underworld Scripture. Sakura's eyes almost popped out, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest on the spot. He looked at the blood dragon with an inconceivable expression. His expression was horrified to the extreme, and he couldn't even say a word as he pointed at the blood dragon. The horror in his heart was like a boundless tsunami, drowning all his reason, and his face showed a dazed expression that had never been seen before. "You're saying that you're the soul of the Underworld Emperor's treasure, the Underworld Scripture. How is this possible? Could my violet eye be the Underworld Scripture?" "No." Sakura stared blankly at the blood dragon, unable to completely recover from the shock. When he heard that the blood dragon in front of him was the soul of the Underworld Emperor's most precious treasure, the Underworld Book, he instinctively thought that the purple eye he just obtained was the legendary Underworld Book. However, before the blood dragon could refute, he denied it first. According to the records left behind by ZU, the Underworld Scripture itself was a book-like treasure. It couldn't be this violet eye. H. Don't compare this damned violet eye to my original body. It was that damned old fart who actually pulled me out of the Underworld Scripture and imprisoned me in this damned violet eye. I don't know where this violet eye came from, but it even cut off my connection with the Underworld Scripture. Don't let me go out, I'll go back to my original body. I'll definitely get my revenge. Let's see which damned old fart captured me. I'll definitely capture him inside the Underworld Scripture and test the power of my Underworld Scripture's 18 layers. The moment the violet eye and the Underworld Scripture were mentioned, the dragon immediately went crazy. Its whiskers crazily danced in the surroundings as it cursed. It was as if it wanted to vent the resentment that had accumulated in its body for countless years in front of Di Shitian. Its roar caused the surrounding space to tremble. The soul of the Underworld Scripture? If this is true, then who could bring it out from the Underworld Book and imprison it here? Just what kind of divine ability would that be? Di Shitian took a few deep breaths and looked at the blood dragon that was still roaring and venting its anger. He couldn't help but think of an ancient scroll that recorded many things in ancient times. There was a description of the Book of the Underworld inside. The Book of Underworld was a supreme treasure that the Emperor of the Underworld carried around with him. It could capture the aura of living beings and absorb it into the Book of Underworld using the Heavenly Underworld brush. The Book of Underworld could detect the origin of living beings and turn them into talismans. The Book of Underworld contained 18 levels of Underworld prison, each of which could change life and death. Once one entered the Underworld prison, one's life and death would no longer be in his control. The Emperor of the Dead relied on it to dominate the heavens and realms, and there were few who could match him. Even carnate numinous treasures were no match for it. Just from this short description, one could imagine how earth-shattering the reputation of the Book of Underworld was in ancient times. It was a peerless weapon that could intimidate all living beings and intimidate all worlds. Back then, when Di Shitian saw it, he only treated it as a form of entertainment, a form of interest. While cultivating, he could also recuperate his mind. Who would have thought that he would actually see the legendary soul of the Book of Underworld with his own eyes, and it was right in front of him? This kind of reversal was truly unbelievable. If one's mental state was slightly weaker, they might have fainted on the spot. Sakura had a feeling of dizziness. No matter what, he couldn't imagine that his purple eye would imprison a guy with such a big background who could scare an elephant to death. "Kid, what's your name? What time is it outside? I was originally imprisoned in this damned place. It seems like I won't be able to get out for a while. Tell me more about the outside world." After a long time, the blood dragon seemed to have vented most of the resentment in its heart. It glared at Di Shitian and shouted, exuding a ferocious aura. Di Shitian frowned slightly. His mind, which had been shocked, had calmed down during this period of time. When he heard the blood dragon's question, his body naturally exuded a domineering emperor's aura. He was not angry, but he had cultivated the emperor shocking the world, which had cultivated the temperament of an emperor. In addition, he had an arrogant temperament. After he came back to his senses and accepted the facts in front of him, he didn't lose his mind like before. He looked calmly at the blood dragon, thoughts running quickly in his mind. Coupled with the blood dragon's words just now, it was imprisoned here, which meant that it didn't have the terrifying strength it had in ancient times. In this void, he had a feeling that he could control it at will, so he was no longer afraid. This king is Di Shetian, the current master of the 10,000 Demon Valley in the southern wilderness. Now, who knows how many tens of thousands of years have passed since ancient times. On the continent, the demon race has declined, and the human race has occupied the leading role of the world. Di Shetian's eyes flashed. The blood dragon in front of him was clearly an old monster who had lived for who knew how long. In front of it, there was no need to lie. On the contrary, perhaps there would be unexpected benefits to befriending it. So many years have passed. I wonder if Master has been reborn. The blood dragon listened quietly and thought to itself, I'm now imprisoned in this damned place, and it's extremely difficult to get out. Also, I don't know which old bastard fused me with this purple eye. I can't leave the purple eye alone. It seems that unless I find my original body, the Abyssal Book, and use the power of the book to return to my origin. Otherwise, it will be difficult to leave this prison. Now that the purple eye has fused with this madman, if he doesn't release the prison, when he completely understands the purple eye, he might be ruthless to me. No, I have to think of a way. It was the soul of the Abyssal Book, and its life experience was extremely rich. Although it kept cursing the purple eye, it knew very well that this purple eye was definitely not a simple thing. Otherwise, it would not have been able to imprison it for so many years. Moreover, it could fuse with living creatures on its own. Now, it did not seem to be very strong. Of course, it was not strong, but only relative to its thoughts. However, to Di Shetian, it was undoubtedly an incomparably mysterious existence that could be relied on as a life-saving divine ability. The strange thing was that the blood dragon actually did not know what kind of divine ability the purple eye had. It had been imprisoned in this strange space for countless years, from ancient times until now. How should I address you, Senior? After Di Shetian finished speaking, he asked in a deep voice. With the blood dragon's identity, it was not too much to call him Senior. The blood dragon's murderous aura suddenly converged. It looked at Di Shetian and said, in ancient times, some people called me Ming, and some people called me you. If you want to call me that, you can call me Ming. Your name is Di Shetian, right? You just heard that I was plotted against and imprisoned here. I want to make a deal with you. You will definitely be rewarded. Thinking of the fact that it was imprisoned in the purple eye and the erosion of the power of desire in the demon residence, the blood dragon did not treat Di Shetian as an ordinary demon. In its opinion, those who took the initiative to touch the 7 emotions and 6 desires were all F***king lunatics. This kind of lunatic was not to be trifled with. He had a vague feeling that the matter of him being imprisoned might have been done by an old cursemancer. These guys played all kinds of curses too strangely. Even the cursemancer did not dare to touch the power of desire, but Di Shetian actually absorbed it into his body and used it to cultivate. If this was not a lunatic, what was? A deal? Di Shetian heard and immediately asked, what kind of deal? Ming stretched out its dragon claws and stroked its dragon whiskers. Its 2 large dragon eyes carefully sized up Di Shetian. After a while, it said, I am the soul of the Emperor of the Dead's most precious treasure, the Book of Hell. I have followed the Emperor of the Dead for countless years and have grown up with my master. I have seen countless secrets, seen countless treasures, and know a lot of powerful secret techniques. You said that now that the demon race has declined, many things must have been lost. I can assist you to become a powerhouse, teach you secret techniques, and help you to answer any questions you have in cultivation. But the condition is that when you have the ability, you must release me from this damned space and help me find the whereabouts of the Book of Hell. What do you think of this deal? Ming looked up at Di Shetian expectantly. This deal could be said to be the best deal for him. This was also the majority of the bargaining chip he had offered. This, Di Shetian's eyes lit up unnaturally. The deal mentioned by Ming was completely made for him. Everything mentioned in the deal was unimaginably tempting to him. Who was Ming? It was the most precious treasure of the Emperor of the Dead. It had followed the Emperor of the Dead for countless years and had done many great things together. It knew everything that the Emperor of the Dead had encountered, and it definitely knew a lot of the cultivation methods and abhijna that the Emperor of the Dead knew. Most importantly, It could be said that it was the best teacher in the world with its knowledge and experience. All along, Di Shitian had cultivated to the first transformation of the demon pill realm without any hindrance. However, during his cultivation, he also had many questions that he could not understand. These questions piled up in his heart, but he did not know who to ask for the answers. If he could have Ming by his side at all times, he would be able to ask for advice. Then, many questions would be answered. All right, I agree. No matter how I look at it, I am the one who is taking advantage of you. As long as I have the ability, I will definitely help you find the whereabouts of the Book of the Dead. However, as for letting you out, to be honest, although this purple eye is now on me, I have only just begun to control the power of the purple eye. Moreover, I can faintly feel that in order to let you out and break the seal, I need to raise my own cultivation to a certain level. Otherwise, I can't do anything. Di Shitian nodded his head in agreement without hesitation. After all, no matter how one looked at it, he was the one who was taking advantage of the situation. There were a few important factors in cultivation: one's aptitude, luck, treasured land, resources, cultivation methods, and answers. He did not lack the first few factors, but he lacked the last one who could answer his questions. If he could really get the help of Ming, he would not lack any of the factors to become a powerful expert. As long as he worked hard in the coming days, becoming a powerful expert would no longer be a dream. Good. 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 When Ming heard Di Shitian's agreement, he was immediately overjoyed. He kept cheering, and his huge dragon body wantonly danced in the space. It seemed that as long as he agreed, everything would be fine. Sakra's mind turned, and he left the void without any warning. He also left the purple eye, and his mind returned to his body. He let out a long breath and opened his eyes. Strange light flickered in his eyes, and he was secretly delighted. This is an unprecedented harvest. With Ming here, it's enough for my strength to increase exponentially. Even if I give you a few spiritual treasures, I won't be able to exchange it. As the saying went, having an old man at home is like having a treasure. With Ming by his side, her lifetime of experience was an extremely precious treasure, and any guidance she provided might benefit all living beings. When he thought about the successive unexpected events and gains he'd obtained in this short period of time, he suddenly felt as if he was dreaming. Oh, Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box, what kind of treasure are you? Who made you? Why are so many treasures popping out from your body? First, it was the ancient scroll that recorded the 7 sins divine melody. Now, it gave me this mysterious purple eye. Could it be someone's prank? Or is it the inheritance of that peerless cultivator? Sakra's heart was filled with emotions. The deeper he went, the more mysterious he felt the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box was. It wasn't wrong to say that it was strange. Every item that appeared from the box was extremely extraordinary. This purple eye was even more terrifying. Not only was it marvelous and had unimaginable power, it even imprisoned an unimaginable existence like dark. Step by step, the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box seemed to be carrying out some unknown inheritance. After pondering for a moment, he did not have any clues. He did not fuss too much about it. He believed that the secret of the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box would be revealed one day. However, he had to admit that since he obtained this treasure box, he seemed to have walked on a different path. He carefully kept the treasure box again. At the same time, the mysterious ancient scroll at the side landed in his hand. This time, besides the purple eye, this ancient scroll had appeared as well. Everything that had happened in this short period of time was too dangerous. Up until now, he had not seen what was inside the ancient scroll with his own eyes. Thank you for protecting me. He picked up the ancient scroll and turned to look at Chen Shi, who had a strange expression on his face, and said with a faint smile, I didn't do anything. There's no need to thank me. Chen Shi shook his head and turned to return to the first level. However, after taking 2 steps, he paused and said, Be more careful when you go into seclusion next time. After speaking, he didn't stay any longer. He turned and left, returning to the first level. He didn't ask anything about what Di Shitian had done earlier. It was as though he didn't see anything. However, Di Shitian could hear a trace of concern in his words. He couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. He quietly watched as Chen Shi left. After a long time, he sat down and slowly opened the ancient scroll. A strange black light flickered on the ancient scroll. This light was similarly evil. Gradually, mysterious words appeared in the ancient scroll. These words seemed to be alive. Each of them were like clouds and mist, constantly changing their forms. The black light they emitted was extremely strange. It was as though there were many evil eyes staring at him. This feeling was extremely strange. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. There were only 10 of these strange words. Each of them emitted a different aura. However, what was behind them wasn't these words. It was a picture. It was a very strange picture. The picture wasn't of mountains and rivers, nor was it of birds and beasts. Instead, it was a strange palace that was completely black. On the palace, there were densely packed seal scripts that were similar to the 10 characters on the ancient scroll. They were distributed in various positions and looked very evil. Around the palace, mysterious people wearing black robes and whose faces could not be seen clearly surrounded the palace. Their expressions were very respectful. They looked at the seal scripts on the palace with a fanatical expression. What is this? Di Shitian's eyes revealed a trace of doubt and seriousness. He faintly felt that the things recorded in the ancient scroll were definitely not as simple as they seemed. He looked at the words, but he didn't recognize them at all. Speaking of which, he felt that these 10 seal words didn't seem like words at all. Instead, they seemed to be some kind of mysterious talisman edict. After thinking for a while, he didn't recklessly touch the ancient scroll again. After pondering for a while, he closed his eyes and used his mind to bring the ancient scroll into the purple eye. Ming, you're experienced and knowledgeable. Can you see what these words are? Di Shitian couldn't figure out what these words were. Suddenly, he remembered that there was an ancient antique in his body. It was time to test it. He used his mind to enter the purple eye again and came to the void where Ming was. He opened the ancient scroll and asked, "Damn it. Curse seal. Isn't this the curse seal condensed from the curse origin of those strange cursemances? Why do you have it? Unlucky, really unlucky." When Ming saw the seal words on the ancient scroll, his expression changed drastically. He looked as if he had stepped on feces and shouted in shock. This is a curse seal. Why did it appear from the treasure box with the purple eye? When Di Shitian heard the surprising answer, he couldn't help but ask as if he didn't mean it. However, the expression in Dark's eyes kept changing. After a moment of silence, he suddenly cursed, F***CKU. As expected, it's you guys who like to hide in the dark. How dare you attack your ancestor, Dark? Just you wait. Just you wait. Just you wait. When I get out of here, I'll definitely drag you guys into the 18 layers of hell and let you have a taste of what I'm capable of. A series of curses came out like the water of the Yangtze River. The crazy and wanton roars were so loud that anyone could hear the anger in them. Di Shitian couldn't help shaking his head. His eyes fell on the ancient scroll. Curse seal. Is this the curse seal left by the strangest cursemancer? What is its meaning? Also, what does this picture represent? Di Shitian was immersed in his thoughts. He didn't care about Ming, who was venting his anger. However, based on Ming's words, he was certain that the records in this ancient scroll were definitely related to the strangest cursemancer. However, he wasn't sure what the curse seal was about. He could only ask after Ming returned to normal. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 350. That group of old monsters, I will not let them off so easily. I, Dark, have dominated the world for so many years. I have even captured peerless experts in the Nether prison. No matter what, I will not let this go. Dark cursed loudly for a long time before it finally stopped. However, its cursing continued for an entire 2 hours without stopping. From this, one could see how furious it was. Di Shitian, As long as you can get the news of the Book of Underworld as soon as possible, I, Dark, will do my best to assist you. Those old monsters are too much of a bully. I will not let them off. Dark looked at Di Shitian and immediately shouted anxiously. He could not wait for even a moment to return to the Book of Underworld. It seemed that he was completely provoked. Don't worry. Although I, Di Shitian, am not a Heaven's Pride or an expert, I am a man of my word. Since I have promised to help you find the Book of Underworld, I will pay attention to any news. Di Shitian nodded solemnly and promised. Good. As long as you keep your promise, I, Dark, will do my best to assist you. Dark nodded fiercely. His eyes fell on the ancient scroll with a trace of fear and disgust. He said, You must be here for this ancient scroll. I will not ask you to help me look for the Book of Underworld for nothing. This ancient scroll must have been made by that group of cursemoncers. You should have seen the 10 seals on it. These seals are actually the inheritance of curse techniques between cursemoncers. They are also the source of the power of curse techniques. Every curse seal contains a kind of inheritance imprint of a curse technique. As long as you use your demon sense to absorb the curse seal, you can naturally obtain the curse technique inside. As he spoke, his voice paused, and he raised his eyes to glance at Sakura. There was a strange look in his eyes. He continued, Speaking of which, if you want to cultivate this curse technique, it will be twice the result with half the effort. I really don't know if I should say that you are brave or crazy. In my master's time, not many people dared to touch the power of desires like the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Those who dared to absorb it all became crazy and went crazy. That thing contained the various desires of countless living beings gathered together over countless years. It was more terrifying than anything else. Not only did you touch it, but you also absorbed the power of desire. Nothing happened to you. Anomaly, I think you are a freak. You knew I was absorbing the power of desire. Di Shitian frowned slightly. He was slightly shocked by Nether's ability to actually comprehend the source of his strength in such a short period of time. However, he didn't know that the reason why Ming knew about it was because Ming wanted to possess his body right from the start. If not for the fact that Ming didn't dare to touch him due to the power of desire, Ming would have used his body to search for the Book of the Underworld. How could she not know that he was absorbing the power of desire? I don't know how many strange things I've seen, but I've never seen someone like you. Not only can you absorb the power of desire, but you can also use it to strengthen yourself. Speaking of which, when I saw you, I was almost scared to death. As he spoke, a trace of deep interest suddenly appeared in Ming's eyes, and he said excitedly, I wonder how strong you'll be if I'm able to nurture you to maturity. Haha, interesting, this is really interesting. Let's do it this way. I'll definitely help you become a peerless expert. In that way, the world will definitely be very lively. Dark had an excited look on his face. He was secretly excited by his sudden idea. It was as if nurturing a peerless powerhouse was something very interesting to him. Di Shitian. Ming's gaze became solemn as he looked at Chen Shi and said, If I'm not mistaken, this ancient scroll was definitely created by those cursemoncers. There are 10 seals on it, and they are the inheritances of the 10 curse techniques. The source of the curse techniques is the 7 emotions and 6 desires that are present everywhere in the world. Even though those fellows who hide in the shadows are very detestable, I have to say that the curse techniques are definitely the strangest energy in the world. They can't directly utilize the power of desire, but they can use the seals to convert the power of desire into curse techniques. It's very evil, but it's very powerful. It's like a parasite. You're even crazier than those cursemoncers, and you can directly absorb the power of desire to cultivate the curse techniques. It's more suitable for you than them. Not only will you achieve twice the result with half the effort, but the might of the curse techniques will multiply. Learning the curse techniques will greatly increase your strength. You'll be invincible in the same realm. Even those monster kings will have to be wary of you. You can't miss this opportunity. Di Shitian listened attentively. He was also deep in thought as he pondered. He had to admit that Ming was very knowledgeable. Indeed, according to the records, the cursemoncers were born on the basis of studying the power of desire. After discovering that they couldn't directly absorb the power of desire, they took a shortcut and created another cultivation system. They merged the power of desire into seals, and then used the seals to transform it into a unique curse technique. It could be said that this was a side branch of cultivating the power of desire. Its foundation was still the power of desire. Di Shitian was more direct than the cursemances. He directly absorbed the power of desire and merged it with the power of heaven and earth to form the Huangji true force. In the Huangji true force, he naturally retained the characteristics of the power of desire. There was absolutely no problem for him to cultivate the curse techniques. Instead, he was like a fish in water. As for the picture on the scroll, I remember that Ming seemed to be lost in thought as she said, during the ancient times, when the cursemances were at their peak, they gathered the energy of all the cursemances and utilized countless precious materials to gather all sorts of treasures of the heavens and the earth. They even gathered an uncountable amount of stellar crystals from the world of stars. They spent over 3,000 years to craft the divine Dark Palace. All the cursemances in the world were gathered within the palace. So long as anyone who didn't cultivate the cursemancer arts approached the palace, they would immediately be enveloped by the myriad of cursemances. Even the most formidable expert wouldn't be able to escape unscathed from the palace. It's very evil. If I'm not mistaken, the picture on the scroll should be that dark palace. At the end, even a great weapon from the ancient times like Ming showed a hint of fear. Thank you for your advice. I'll go and try the curse technique inheritance now. Di Shitian listened quietly, thanked Ming, and put away the ancient scroll. His figure flashed, and he quickly left this strange space. He turned his attention back to himself and opened his eyes to look at the ancient scroll in his hand. He felt that the ancient scroll was very heavy. He really didn't expect this ancient scroll to be related to the curse technique inheritance. The mystery that shrouded the cursemances all this time made him even more curious. Now that the curse techniques no longer existed, just the remaining power was enough to make most cultivators tremble in fear when they heard the curse techniques. Moreover, there might be a complete curse technique inheritance in front of him now. He couldn't help but feel a hint of anticipation. Whoosh! He opened the ancient scroll and looked at the 10 curse techniques with constantly changing auras on it. He muttered, "Let me see what's so magical about the curse techniques. If I can master it, it'll definitely be a powerful trump card." He muttered to himself. With a determined gaze, he focused his mind and immediately followed the method Ming mentioned earlier. He carefully probed one of the curse techniques with his demon consciousness. Woo! However, as soon as the demon consciousness touched the curse technique inheritance, the curse technique inheritance immediately reacted. It suddenly turned into a black light and rushed into his body at an incredible speed. At the same time, a strange power that was very similar to the power of desire was suddenly emitted from the curse technique inheritance. It drilled into every inch of his flesh in all directions. This strange power seemed to want to integrate into his flesh. It wanted to transform his body into something it wanted to transform into. But the strange thing was that although this power passed through his flesh, it didn't change his flesh at all. Di Shitian's demon body was like a dry sponge, swallowing all this power without any scruples. It was like a bottomless pit. There was no reaction, but the curse technique inheritance was like a fish in water. It excitedly passed through his body and quickly rushed into the demon palace. It immediately entered the demon refining cauldron. When it saw the third-grade black lotus in the cauldron, it was as if it had seen its mother. It happily jumped a few times, then turned into a black light and rushed into the black lotus. In an instant, a strange seal strangely appeared on the surface of the black lotus. It was imprinted on the black lotus. It was so natural that not a single flaw could be found. It was as if it was born on the black lotus. As the black lotus rotated, it absorbed the Emperor True Force into the curse technique inheritance. When the curse technique inheritance absorbed the True Force, it was as if it had a life of its own. At the same time, a strange message appeared in his mind without any warning. Di Shitian had no choice but to focus all his attention on absorbing this information. After a long while, Sakra's mouth drew a faint arc as he muttered to himself, "So strange, such a mystical curse technique. No wonder, No wonder the curse technique would be called a curse by others, an evil technique. However, to me, this curse technique is the most suitable for me. After obtaining you, I will give the immortal cultivation world a painful lesson in this immortal demon competition. He was only slightly happy for a while. Without any hesitation, he absorbed the remaining 9 curse techniques inheritance into his body. These curse techniques inheritance were the same as the previous one. Once they entered his body, they were immediately imprinted on the Black Lotus, shining with a strange light. Even the speed of the power of desire rushing into his body was a bit faster. Shitian could clearly feel that these curse techniques inheritance had completely integrated with his Niden, the 3rd grade Black Lotus. They were indistinguishable from each other. It was as if they had grown together with the Black Lotus. It was very strange. However, he was very clear that this curse technique inheritance was the foundation of curse techniques. A curse technique inheritance represented a curse technique. After obtaining the curse technique inheritance, he understood how the curse technique inheritance was passed down. It turned out that when accepting a disciple, they would use the great curse technique to gather the power of desire of the heavens and earth, condensing it into a curse seal. Then, they would plant the curse seal in the disciple's body. The disciple would rely on the curse seal to absorb the power of desire and convert it into curse power. The more curse seals there were, the stronger the curse power, and the stronger the strength. The strongest curse technique master had condensed countless strange and mysterious curse seals in their body. They could rely on the curse technique inheritance to place their primordial spirit. In times of danger, as long as one curse technique inheritance escaped, they could rely on it to be reborn. The strangeness of it could be seen at a glance. However, Shitian was different from the curse technique inheritance at this time. He didn't need to rely on the curse technique inheritance at all. Once the power of desire absorbed by the curse technique inheritance entered the Black Lotus, it would immediately be transformed into the Royal True Force. Using the Royal True Force to activate the curse technique inheritance was not only without any hindrance, but it was also more convenient. After all, the Book of Shocking the World was not a joke. It was a real book. After absorbing the 10 curse techniques inheritance, Shitian didn't leave immediately. It had only been less than 4 years. There was still enough time for him to familiarize himself with the mysteries of the curse technique inheritance. For a time. In the tower, he resumed his usual cultivation. Every day, he practiced his saber technique, absorbed the spirit chi of heaven and earth, and the boundless power of desire. Then he familiarized himself with the curse technique inheritance in his body. Every day, his schedule was full and incomparably fulfilling. The time that was originally lacking, at this moment, was sufficient. Time passed quietly around him in the blink of an eye. Even in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, it could only slow down the speed of time, but it couldn't reverse the flow of time. No matter how slow it would still pass. It was less than 2 months outside, but in the pagoda, Shitian had already spent 5 or 6 years. Pater. On the 9 steps, a steady sound of footsteps came from above. Shitian, dressed in a black robe, walked down naturally. He didn't care about the pressure from the stairs at all. The aura of supremacy on his body became more obvious. Obviously, during this period of time, he had a lot of gains. Shia, it's time. Come out with me. Standing in the courtyard, looking at the position of the study, there was a trace of gentleness in his words. Squeak. The door was pushed open, and Chen Shi, who was dressed in plain clothes, walked out of the room. A burst of strange fragrance of flowers entered the nose, making people feel relaxed and happy. Are you going to leave here and go to the 5 Elements mountain range? Chen Shi didn't leave immediately. Instead, she looked at him calmly and asked a question. When she asked, her heart couldn't help but tremble. She was secretly surprised. Why do I care about him more and more recently? Do I really like him? For a moment, she felt inexplicably irritated. Yes. Shitian nodded and said without hesitation, now that the Demon Clan and the Immortal Cultivation World are in a stalemate in the 5 Elements mountain range, the Immortal Demon competition should be a temporary way to ease the tension. But if there is no accident, There must be the idea of the various sects in the immortal cultivation world wanting to test the strength of the demon clan. If we don't show our strong side in the competition, I'm afraid there will be accidents. After all, no matter how strong the 8 demon kings are, they can't withstand the siege of a large number of cultivators. Only by showing our strongest side and making the immortal cultivation world afraid can the rest of the demon clan smoothly withdraw from the mountain range and win some time for the demon clan. Conciliation was useless here. The weaker the knight, the more they would be bullied. They had to show their strength without hiding. They had to be strong enough that the immortal cultivation world didn't dare to act rashly. They had to be strong enough to make the major sects afraid. They had to let the immortal cultivation world know that although the demon clan had declined, they were not to be bullied and slaughtered at will. They also had the ability to destroy any sect. That way, they would be afraid, have scruples, and not dare to act rashly. Time, if he won time, Di Shitian was confident that he could build a strength that no force dared to underestimate in a short time. This time, he had to win the immortal demon competition to buy time for the demon clan and the rise of the myriad demon valley. Therefore, this time, he had decided that he must show his strength in the competition that was enough to deter most cultivators. Not only for the demon clan, but also for himself. Then you have to be careful. Don't forget, there is still your sister Xiaobai here. If something happens to you, Xiaobai will really have no one to rely on. Chen Shi looked at him deeply and didn't say anything to stop him. Okay. Di Shitian heard the concern in his words, and a trace of warmth flashed through his heart. He smiled faintly and nodded. Together, they left the pagoda and returned to the myriad demon valley. After returning to the valley, Di Shitian didn't stay idle. He erected a huge 9-story pagoda in the valley. The pagoda was flowing with light. The pagoda was called the Inch-Yin Pagoda. An inch of time was an inch of gold. An inch of gold couldn't buy an inch of time. This Inch-Yin Pagoda was refined by him in the pagoda with various materials. The quality of the pagoda wasn't very high. It had just entered the magic treasure grade. However, in the pagoda, Di Shitian poured the power of the exquisite pagoda into the pagoda of time in the form of the gate of time, so that the pagoda of time could temporarily connect with the exquisite pagoda. The power of the exquisite pagoda to reverse time and space was temporarily applied in the pagoda of time. It could only last for 12 hours a day. That was 12 hours. After that, he had to wait until the next day to continue. This was also another use of the exquisite pagoda. It was not convenient for him to leave the exquisite pagoda in the myriad demon valley for the time being. He could only refine such a temporary substitute first. This way, when placed in the valley, the demons in the valley could enter the pagoda to cultivate. Among them, the first level could be entered at will, and the time inside was 1 to 10. However, entering the second level required merit points. It required 10 merit points per day, and the time inside was 1 to 50. The appearance of this pagoda of time was also a way for Di Shitian to circulate merit points in the valley. It just so happened that merit points were integrated into the lives of all the demons in the valley. When it was completely implemented in the future, it would be a matter of course. No matter what it was, circulation had the value of existence. Without something to circulate it, it could not be said to be implemented. This was the significance of the pagoda of time's appearance. After temporarily arranging the affairs in the valley, Di Shitian did not care about the rest and handed it over to Chen Shi and Kai Hua to take care of. He did not stay any longer. Driving the floating cloud boat, he rushed towards the 5 Elements mountain range. It was worth mentioning that after hearing about it, Medusa also followed along. Moreover, her cultivation had also inconceivably stepped into the first transformation of the Yarodan. The speed of her progress showed that her talent was very strong. It was absolutely different from other ordinary demons. With regards to Medusa wanting to tag along, Sakura didn't stop her. Medusa's strength wasn't weak, and her innate divine ability was incomparably strange. That pair of eyes that could easily turn a person into a stone statue was absolutely terrifying. She was a powerful helper. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 351. The Black Ape King, the Red-Crowned Crane King, and the others had planned to follow, but Di-Shitian did not agree. He only asked them to stay in the valley and cultivate in peace, striving to improve themselves. Clouds gathered and dispersed, changing their forms with the wind. Some were like birds, some were like beasts, and some were like the peaks of mountains. The wind was formless, and the clouds were formless. When the wind moved, the clouds moved. When the wind gathered, the clouds would be swept away. Between the clouds, there was a unique charm to them. High up in the sky, between the clouds, a boat was shuttling through the sea of clouds. It was not too fast, only moving forward at an ordinary speed. However, it was still much faster than ordinary imperial wind and imperial swords. In the boat, Di-Shitian and Medusa sat opposite each other. On the table were several plates of spiritual fruits. There were 1,000-year-old vermilion fruits and 100-year-old spiritual peaches. They were all placed in front of them generously. Beside them were several wine gourds. These gourds were filled with spiritual wine. This time, the wine was not the monkey wine brewed by Yuan Tian and his people, nor was it the 100 Flowers immortal wine brewed by Chen Shi from the 100 Flowers Valley. Instead, he had relied on the magic of the wine god's gourd to brew the mysterious azure ice wine according to the method recorded in the wine recipe, using a spiritual herb called the ice fire fruit that grew in hot or cold places. Together with wine grass and hundreds of spiritual herbs, he had brewed the mysterious azure ice wine. This was the first spiritual wine recorded in the wine god's heavenly mirror. It had extraordinary benefits for the refinement of the physical body. He had already obtained the ice fire fruit on Smoky Wave Island and planted it in the Shenlong's paradise map. It had already multiplied quite a bit, so he had also collected some fruits. According to the wine recipe, with the help of the god of wine gourd, the most miraculous winemaking treasure, he had already brewed it. Try this mysterious azure ice wine. The wine contains the two polar opposite powers of ice and fire. It has a very good effect for the refinement of our demon bodies. Di-Shitian smiled faintly and opened the gourd. A strange wine fragrance wafted out of the gourd. Within this wine fragrance, there was an icy and scorching aura. The two polar opposite powers coexisted strangely in the wine. It looked a little unbelievable. He poured the wine into the cup. The color of the wine was like jade, crystal clear, like amber. On the surface, it did not seem strange at all. Only by drinking it could one understand the beauty of this spiritual wine. Yes, I've heard that your myriad demon valley is good at brewing spiritual wine, but the most famous one is the monkey wine. I didn't expect you to be a master of wine as well. Medusa was not an ordinary person. She could tell from the fragrance of the wine that the spirit wine in this cup was a rare and wonderful product. It was a treasure that ordinary cultivators would not be able to taste. Glancing at Di-Shitian, she reached out her hand, picked up the wine cup, brought it to her lips, and elegantly poured the wine into her mouth. As soon as she swallowed, an icy cold aura suddenly emerged from her body, as if it was about to freeze the air. Then, in an instant, the cold aura retreated, and her body emitted a scorching aura. These two polar opposite auras alternated back and forth 9 times before gradually disappearing. Medusa closed her eyes and focused on herself. She silently absorbed the power contained in the wine, absorbing the benefits from it. Di-Shitian saw this and smiled faintly. He directly picked up the gourd and poured it into his mouth, allowing the power of ice and fire to pass through his flesh and blood and refine it. He had already brewed this wine in the secret realm. He did not know how much he had drunk. The power in this wine could no longer have much effect on his demon body. Hee. Sakura, I didn't expect you to have such good luck with women. Earlier on, I've already discovered that the flower demon in the pagoda, her original body seems to be rather extraordinary. Her appearance is even more extraordinary and few people can compare to her. She has condensed the fortune of heaven and earth and has great affection for you. This one is not ordinary either. I didn't expect you to meet a demon like Medusa. I really have to admire you. Suddenly, A strange voice sounded in his mind without warning. Di Shitian could not help but frown slightly. How did you come out from the purple eye? Di Shitian instantly realized that the voice came from the purple eye. Who else could speak in the purple eye other than Dark? What's so strange about that? Even though I'm trapped in this ghostly eye, it's not like I don't know anything. I can still know what's going on outside. It's not difficult for me to talk to you, but only you can hear me. Underworld indeed couldn't be judged by common sense. It was extremely strange. As the soul of a great killing weapon, it had many strange abilities that were unknown to others. The previous surprise was also the first time Sakura had experienced such a thing. After thinking about it again, it wasn't strange anymore. Don't talk nonsense. I don't have that kind of thoughts about Medusa. Di Shitian shook his head and glanced at Medusa, who was absorbing the power in the wine with her eyes closed. He then looked at the void outside the ship. The floating cloud ship shuttled through the sea of clouds and left them behind. He poured a mouthful of the spirit wine. The mysterious ice jade fire wine was very strong. It was 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than the strongest wine in the secular world. It was extremely strong after drinking it. He said indifferently, "Now I have many things to do. I have no time to care about emotional matters." He paused for a moment and looked at the void. He couldn't help but think of a few beautiful figures. There was Chen Shi, who was elegant and had the grace of 100 flowers. There was the Zither fairy, Qin Xin, who was elegant and extraordinary. There was the white fox, Su Tianxiang, who was full of natural charm. There was also a hint of slyness in her charm. Each of them could be said to be a peerless beauty that only appeared once in 1,000 years. Logically speaking, having one of them was already a great fortune. On the other hand, he had been in contact with so many peerless women, but he did not dare to think about these things at the moment. He was entangled with so many things, and the myriad Demon Valley was still in ruins. If he were to divert his energy to feelings, it would only wear away his perseverance and wear away his caltrops. He could only follow the 4 words, "Let nature take its course." "He, you lunatic. You're really wasting a heavenly treasure. Back in the day, my master roamed the world and had countless beauties following him. When men and women cultivated together, there were great blessings of yin and yang. However, even by my master's side, there were not many who could surpass this Medusa." Dark chuckled strangely and yelled, "Crazy Di, if you want, I have the supreme cultivation technique of my master, the yin-yang great compassion poem of heaven and earth. If you learn it, I guarantee you will have 3,000 women and your power will improve greatly. There won't be any hidden dangers." When talking about the method, there was a trace of admiration in his voice. "Shut up." Indra opened his mouth and uttered a sentence. His mind flickered, and the purple mark between his eyebrows sparkled with a strange light, trapping Dark's voice in the purple eye, not allowing it to come out at all. The light in his eyes flickered and gradually deepened. He said with a calm face, "Although I am not against yin and yang dual cultivation, relying on dual cultivation will eventually lead to endless entanglement with love. I, Di Shitian, disdain it. Love is the word that cares about truth and purity. A heart can be divided into a few parts, but not thousands of parts. If there is desire and no love, it is impossible to achieve the true meaning of dual cultivation. If there is love and desire, the combination of spirit and desire is the Tao of dual cultivation. How can I not know?" He was no longer the little black tiger in Tiger Hill. Now, he was a rare expert in the demon clan. He had read thousands of ancient scrolls in the exquisite pagoda and was not ignorant of some cultivation methods. He also had his own views on some cultivation methods. Dual cultivation was a shortcut to cultivation, but it was too easy to indulge in lust. Losing one's heart. Most of the time dual cultivation methods had lost their true meaning. They only knew how to make friends and absorb the essence. However, they did not know that this was just a side way of having desire and no emotion. The true dual cultivation should be the combination of spirit and desire, using affection to turn into affection threads, and using affection threads to integrate into the mind and the inner core. What a powerful dark ice jade fire wine. At this moment, Medusa opened her eyes and sighed softly. Just 1 cup of it increased the demon chi in my body by at least 10 years. My body was also repeatedly refined. It is stronger than before. It is indeed a rare spiritual wine. That black guy and sister he are lucky to drink this kind of spiritual wine often, and their cultivation speed will be several times faster. It is also a rare treasure for laying the foundation. With just 1 cup, she could clearly feel the various benefits of the dark ice jade fire wine. It was not inferior to the monkey wine at all. Moreover, it had the miraculous effect of refining the body. It was a rare treasure. If you want, I still have some. To me, it is not too precious. There is no harm in giving it to you. Hearing this, Di Shitian was not stingy. He patted his storage bag, and 10 gourds appeared on the table. He pushed them in front of Medusa, not caring at all. Many thanks. Medusa's eyes moved, and she muttered to herself. She thanked him, and with a wave of her hand, she put them all away. Ayo! Quickly run, I will block them. You all escape. Escape into the cloud dream swamp, and you will have a chance to live. Later, you can avenge me. At this moment, the floating cloud boat arrived in the sky above a dense mountain forest. Suddenly, a tragic tiger roar sounded from below. In the sound, there was a strange sadness, and also a declining heroism. It sounded more like a kind of despair. When it fell into Di Shitian's ears, his heart trembled fiercely. A murderous intent burst out from his eyes, and an unknown anger crazily surged out from the bottom of his heart. TSK, you all escape. I want to see where you can escape to. I didn't expect that we would have such luck this time to meet a group of tigers gathered together. Hehe, this time we will kill all these tiger demons. Their bones are most suitable for refining the white bone origin time banner. Later, we will take their souls out, and the tiger souls of the origin time banner will not need to go to the Thousand Beasts sect to exchange. It will save a lot of money. That's right. Last time, the soul-devouring white bone painting given by Master disappeared in the southern barbarian bone wasteland. The elders in the sect were furious. Fortunately, the sect leader has left the sect for hundreds of years and has not returned. Otherwise, I don't know how many disciples will suffer. This time, refining the white bone origin time banner can't have any more accidents. Otherwise, when Master returns, the fury of thunder is not something we can bear. For a moment, the tiger roar and a burst of strange conversation came from below. Immediately, the floating cloud boat that was originally moving forward quickly stopped in the sky without any warning. Sakura walked out of the boat with an ice-cold expression on his face, and looked down. Suddenly, the scene in front of him caused his eyes to emit dense flames of anger. In the mountain forest, a group of dozens of tigers was desperately running forward. Many of these fleeing tigers were newborn tiger cubs. They were about 5 or 6 months old. Among them, there were only 3 or 4 pairs of adult tigers. They were leading those tiger cubs to flee forward quickly. There were still 3 tiger demons with strong demon aura behind them. Looking at their demon aura, they were actually tigers that had already reached the realm of demon beasts. Their bodies carried an imposing manner that was unafraid of death as they stared at the top of their heads. In midair, 3 cultivators wearing black clothes and clearly emitting a strange evil aura were calmly looking at the fleeing tiger group below. It seemed that they didn't care about their escape at all. They even leisurely chased after them while chatting with interest. It was as if they weren't chasing after them at all, but rather herding a group of sheep that could be slaughtered at any time. Ayo! The 3 demon tigers looked at each other and saw a kind of determination in each other's eyes. They roared and let out tiger roars that shook the sky, shaking the surrounding leaves. They fiercely stomped on the ground and pounced at the 3 cultivators. Every tiger claw was suffused with a metallic luster, and the sharp tiger claws were surrounded by a thick layer of black demon aura. It was enough to tear gold and split stone. The imposing manner that pounced was incomparably fierce, containing the deterrent force of the king of beasts. The claws that swung out were all aimed at the vital parts of the 3 cultivators. TSK, this group of kittens is really cute. They know that they can't hurt us, but they still make these useless attacks time and time again. How boring. One of the cultivators with a very pale face looked at the demon tiger that was pouncing at him and took a thick beast bone of unknown name in his hand and knocked it on the head. In the pale white light, a strange evil force effortlessly slapped the tiger that was in midair down. It crashed heavily on the ground. What's so strange about that? The demon race is just a bunch of animals. Even if they have intelligence, they're still stupid. No matter how much they cultivate, they can't compare to us humans. If it weren't for the 8 demon kings, they would have been wiped out hundreds of times already, a relatively short dwarf shouted disdainfully. Ayo! The 3 demon tigers let out mournful roars. Their eyes were filled with madness as they used various methods to charge at the 3 cultivators in the air. However, each time, they were easily swatted down by the 3 cultivators. It was as if they were playing a game of cat and mouse. This was a completely unbalanced battle, revealing a deep sense of sadness. The demon beasts in the world had lost their inheritance. Although these 3 demon tigers had the cultivation of demon beasts, they did not have the corresponding strength. Even how they used their strength was quite primitive. They had no secret techniques, no attack methods. They could only bite with their teeth, tear with their claws, smash with their bodies, and smash with their heads. Compared to Di Shitian's original opportunity, it also showed the current situation of the demon beasts. Although they were slapped down again and again, they did not retreat a single step. Knowing that they were no match for the enemy, knowing that they would die, they still did not retreat. Just as the 3 cultivators had slapped the 3 demon tigers down for the nth time, a cold snort that seemed capable of freezing the entire air rang out. An incomparably overbearing and tyrannical aura swept out and rushed towards the 3 cultivators. For a moment, the 3 cultivators did not even have the time to react. They felt as though the air around them had suddenly solidified. Their bodies became incomparably heavy, bound by a terrifyingly powerful aura. They could not move at all. Their minds trembled violently, as though a calamity would befall them at any moment. In an instant, what should have happened to the 3 demon tigers below, who had been teased all this time, mysteriously happened to them. Shock flooded their minds in an instant. At the same time, their faces became incomparably pale, and they fearfully looked towards the sky. Senior, please have mercy. I don't know if this junior has offended you in any way. Please let this junior off for the sake of the Whitebone sect. The shorty was the most clever. His eyes turned and saw that a spirit boat had appeared above his head without him knowing. A man and a woman were standing on the spirit boat. The man's expression was even colder, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He quickly opened his mouth and shouted. His words were carefully thought out. First, he put on the label of a senior. Even if he had offended them, he was a senior and could not bully the weak. Second, he pointed out the name of his sect. Naturally, he would use the name of his sect to make the newcomer feel apprehensive. Unfortunately, his calculations were destined to be wrong. The person in front of them was not a senior from the cultivation world. Instead, it was the demon clan that they had just ridiculed and belittled. Sakura didn't say much. His body shook, and waves of ink-black demonic aura gushed out from the countless pores on his body. The dense demonic aura spread out in all directions without any concealment. The demonic aura rolled, and a huge black tiger condensed above his head. Its 2 cold tiger eyes fell on the 3 cultivators. With just a glance, the 3 cultivators felt their hearts turn cold. They only felt that their bodies were frozen, and they could not even circulate their true essence. Their eyes were filled with despair. They never thought that they would meet a demon clan member. The power of this glance was something that they could imagine with their toes. They were afraid that they had met a true expert of the demon clan. You are the demon king. A stuttering voice came out from the cultivator's mouth. He was so scared that his face turned deathly pale. This aura, it's a senior of the tiger clan. The 3 tigers who had originally wanted to stop the cultivators in their tracks in despair only reacted to the sudden reversal. Among the same species, they could always sense each other more clearly. When they saw the black tiger condensed from demonic chi above Di Shitian's head and the extremely dense demonic chi all over his body, their originally sorrowful eyes suddenly brightened. They fell to their knees and kowtowed to Di Shitian. Their cries were mixed with sobs. They were crying tears of joy. "Don't cry. All of you, get up." As members of the tiger clan, as the kings of all beasts, crying is a sign of cowardice. You were forced to flee everywhere by a few puny core formation cultivators, and you have the nerve to cry. If you are the sons of the tiger clan, then fight back for this king and kill them. Di Shitian's gaze fell on the three tigers, and he spat out a sentence with great force. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 352. Di Shitian spat out a sentence filled with dominance. The purple mark on his forehead flickered, and 3 rays of purple light instantly shot out, crossing the boundary of the void and arriving in front of the 3 demon tigers in an instant, landing on the king mark on their foreheads. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, countless amounts of demonic chi madly gushed out from the pores of their bodies, condensing outside their bodies. In an instant, their bodies were like balloons, violently inflating. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, they had swelled to over 100 feet tall, and their demonic chi was like clouds, violently surging. At the same time, waves of hatred appeared in their eyes, and they turned to glare at the 3 imprisoned cultivators in midair. Go, kill them. Use their blood to wash away the anger in your hearts, and use their lives to witness your growth. When Di Shitian saw that the 3 multicolored demon tigers were already exuding a strong demonic chi, exuding an intense battle intent, he nodded inwardly, but his mouth showed no trace of expression as he spoke. This isn't fair, this isn't fair. Seeing the 3 demon tigers, who had been toyed with by them, suddenly undergo earth-shattering changes in the blink of an eye, their bodies instantly expanded dozens of times, and their demonic chi surged violently, surging fiercely. Baring their fangs, they walked over step by step. An invisible pressure fell on the 3 cultivators. Immediately, their faces changed greatly, and they were as pale as a sheet of white paper. In a situation where they were unable to move, if the 3 demon tigers approached them, they would definitely be torn to pieces in an instant. With fear on their faces, they shouted loudly. "You're the demon king of the demon clan, you can't bully the weak like this. Aren't you afraid that you'll lose face if word of this spreads?" The pale-faced cultivator also shouted loudly. Di Shitian glanced indifferently at them, and said, "I'll give you a chance to fight with them. If you win, this king will make an exception and spare your lives. If you lose, He didn't continue, but the chilling coldness in his words had thoroughly expressed his intentions. As soon as his voice fell, the restraints on the 3 cultivators disappeared in the same way they appeared. Run. The 3 cultivators did not hesitate in the slightest. As soon as the bindings were released, they turned around and fled in the opposite direction. They mustered all of their strength and desperately fled. They didn't have any intention of fighting the 3 tigers. In their minds, the one in front of them was a demon king that they didn't even have the strength to fight back. If they stayed here and fought with the 3 tigers, they would die if they lost. If they won, they might still be ground to dust by the demon king. It was better to escape on the spot. There was still a slight chance of survival. When they were escaping, they were very skillful. They split up into 3 different directions. It could be seen that they were very experienced in this aspect. Bang! However, Sakura only looked at them with a cold smile and didn't stop them. He looked on helplessly as they had just escaped 10 feet away. Their bodies that were flying at high speed were suddenly smashed into the void, as if they had smashed into an invisible mountain. One after another, they let out a muffled groan and fell onto the ground. He was seeing stars, and his head was spinning. Roar. At this time, the 3 tigers, whose bodies had swelled to more than 100 feet tall, emitted a bloodthirsty light at the same time. They opened their bloody mouths, revealing a mouthful of fangs. They sucked fiercely in front of them. A gust of wind rose from the ground and was instantly swallowed into their stomachs. Their bodies swelled again, and a strong aura of the king of beasts swept wildly from their bodies. They raised their heads and opened their mouths to let out an incomparably domineering tiger roar. As soon as the tiger roar came out, the surrounding trees seemed to be swept away by a gust of wind. Countless leaves were shaken and fell to the ground. Invisible ripples shook the void in this shocking roar and spread out in all directions. It was like waves, crashing toward the three cultivators with mountain-toppling force. The tiger roar was so powerful that it was like thousands of thunderbolts raging. It was so loud that it was deafening. The three cultivators, who were already dizzy from the collision, were not prepared for this. They only felt the continuous roaring in their heads, as if their minds were about to be shaken to pieces. Blood flowed out of their ears. Then, the invisible sound waves in the air hit their bodies wave after wave. Their bodies felt like they were being struck by lightning. However, they did not know what kind of treasure the black clothes they were wearing were, but they actually emitted bursts of black light and blocked the shocking power of the sound waves. However, their internal organs were shaken violently in an instant. Their blood and chi were tumbling, and it was so uncomfortable that they were about to vomit blood. In an instant, they were injured on top of their injuries. 7th junior brother, 8th junior brother, fight it out with them. This tiger roar also shook them awake. Their hearts were full of fear, but they also realized their current situation in an instant. They were, after all, some ruthless characters. Seeing that there was no way to escape, they were stimulated to be ruthless. Beast spirit, come out. The three cultivators held the same white bone in their hands. It was like a long thorn, and it was very strange. At this time, they all shouted and formed a seal, imprinting it into the bone thorn. In an instant, the bone thorn emitted a strange pale light and trembled violently. It was as if there was a life inside, and it emitted a terrifying trembling sound. Boom, boom, boom. The three bone thorns flashed in the wind. From the bone thorns, three huge wolves, the size of houses and their bodies emitted pale white ghost fire, suddenly sprang out. The moment these huge ghost wolves appeared, their eyes emitted a green light. They stared at the demon tigers. Their bodies were not weaker than them at all. Waves of wolf howls came from their mouths to block the sound waves, and they rushed over like lightning. The tiger was the king of beasts. Among the beasts, it was a natural king. It never feared any battle. Once it saw these ghost wolves rushing over, it emitted waves of sound waves and an invisible deterrence from its body. It fiercely rushed over and immediately fought with the three ghost wolf-like beast spirits. Demonic aura billowed, and the roars were endless. The ghost wolves' bodies seemed to be very illusory. They were not real. The tiger claws tore them apart, and they could reform in the blink of an eye. They were not afraid at all. However, the sound waves of the tiger's roar could shake their bodies and dissipate their power. It seems that the immortal cultivation world has already begun to encircle and annihilate the weak demon clansmen. Who knows how many demons that have just been born with spirituality have been killed like this? Medusa's face became a little ugly. Looking at the tiger clan below, she thought of the other demon clansmen on the mainland who were also suffering the same fate. If the tigers in front of them had not met them, it was likely that they would not have been able to escape the fate of being slaughtered. The coldness in Di Shitian's eyes became more and more intense. All this time, he had been extremely disgusted by the immortal cultivation world's bullying of the demon clan. At this moment, when he saw the tiger clan below being teased by the three cultivators like a cat playing with a mouse, a nameless anger crazily burned in his body. This was a kind of anger that came from his bloodline. It was a kind of nameless sorrow. No matter what happened in his previous life, in this life, he was a demon. His blood flowed with the blood of the king of beasts. Seeing his fellow clansmen being chased in such a sorry state, that kind of anger almost burned everything. Everything was burned to ashes. The desire to make the demon clan rise to power was unprecedentedly strong. Even if it's not for anything else, just for my clan, just for my family, I will definitely create an iron bucket of mountains and mountains. I will build a force that no one dares to look down on. I will make it so that no cultivator will dare to easily kill the demon clan and wantonly steal their inner cores. I will pull out their tendons and pull out their bones. At some unknown time, Di Shitian's fists were tightly clenched, making crisp sounds. However, his expression did not change in the slightest as he said resolutely, "There will come a day when the cultivation world will regret it. I will make them regret it. With me here, let's see who dares to slaughter the tiger clan again. If they kill a tiger, I will exterminate their entire clan." His words revealed a bone-chilling coldness. There was also an indomitable decisiveness in his voice. When Medusa heard this, she glanced at him. However, she did not agree nor refute him. She truly could not imagine what kind of strength was required to achieve such a step. Without that kind of mighty strength that stood at the peak, how could one have that kind of power that could deter all living things? With a faint smile, she looked down at the battle below and said thoughtfully, "Those 3 cultivators are core formation cultivators after all. Although you passed on your tiger raw sound wave to them and gave them the method to use the demonic energy in their bodies, they still haven't familiarized themselves with their own strength. I'm afraid that it will be difficult to truly kill them." She had long seen that the 3 purple rays that Di Shitian shot at the 3 demon tigers actually contained some inheritance. In the inheritance, there should be some method to use demonic energy. Then there was the tiger raw sound wave technique that Di Shitian relied on to kill enemies in his early years. Although the tiger raw sound wave technique was an innate attack technique of the tiger clan, it was difficult to use it without knowing how to use demonic energy. However, once there was a method to use it, it could be instinctively and quickly mastered. "It's fine." Di Shitian waved his hand and said, "I want them to fight, to kill the cultivators. Using battle, using blood as a baptism, to stimulate the bloodlust and battle intent in their bodies. As members of the tiger clan, how can they not kill? With a fearless battle intent, their achievements in the future will definitely not stop at this realm." An indescribable sense of responsibility welled up in her heart. As a member of the tiger clan, seeing her own clansmen being hunted down so pathetically, her heart was fiercely touched. Inadvertently, she realized that her own kind was being hunted down and killed. That was a very sad feeling. Almost instantly, she made a decision in her heart. No matter what, she had to do her best and let the tiger clan become the true kings of the beasts. At the same time, she also had to become the royal clan of the demon clan. 3 demonic tigers of the demonic beast level were fighting with 3 strange beast spirits. These beast spirits were very strange. Not only did their bodies seem to be illusory and difficult to damage, just like ghosts, but their claws were also very sharp. When the claws landed on their bodies, it immediately left a few deep wounds that exposed the bones. Blood was dripping. However, the beast spirits were also continuously shaken by the tiger roar. Their bodies became more and more illusory, as if they would disappear at any time. The 3 cultivators also controlled their bone spikes to attack them from time to time. The 3 demon tigers were at a disadvantage. Their bodies were dripping with blood and covered with various wounds. Ding dang, ding dang. Just as the battle was at its most intense, suddenly, a sound like metal being dragged on the ground rang out from afar without warning. The sound was continuous. Amidst the sound, there was a gust of cold yin qi that rushed towards them. Accompanying it was the sound of heavy footsteps. Something's not right. Di Shitian glanced at Medusa and frowned slightly. Then, he looked to his left and his expression turned unusually serious. Amidst this strange sound, amidst the yin qi that rushed towards them, there was a kind of strange aura. Even his heart violently contracted as a strong sense of danger rose within him. Strong, what a strong aura. Who is this? Di Shitian looked towards the direction of the sound as a thought flashed through his mind. He looked at the battle below and the dozens of tigers that had gathered again. He stretched out his hand and grabbed downwards. Under his claw, the entire air seemed to have solidified in an instant, as if it was squeezed in his palm. The 3 demon tigers that were originally bathed in blood and tearing at each other were simultaneously pulled up by an invisible force. They could not resist at all. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of them changed. When they looked again, they had already appeared on the floating cloud boat. The boat was very spacious and there was no difficulty in accommodating them. There was also no feeling of crowding. Senior. The three demon tigers were obviously the leaders of the tiger group. Seeing Di Shitian standing in front of them, their eyes immediately showed respect and expectation. From today onwards, you will call me King. Di Shitian glanced at them. He slightly nodded and said, "What I gave you before was the cultivation method of my tiger clan before condensing the inner core. From now on, you will circulate your demon power according to the method of Tiger Raw technique and concentrate on cultivation." What he had given them was the Tiger Raw technique that he had obtained from the bloodline inheritance. For the Tiger clan, this was the most suitable cultivation method for laying the foundation. He didn't say anything else after he had said this. He merely stood in the void. His mind moved, and he gathered the clouds in the surroundings. Then, the floating cloud ship was completely hidden in the clouds. He stood in the clouds, and observed the scene below. I can feel that there is a very powerful expert in that direction. I am not his match. Medusa also looked towards the direction where the strange sound of metal and the dull sound of footsteps were constantly coming from. Her expression suddenly became dignified as she said, "What's going on? Why did those three demon beasts suddenly disappear? And that demon king is also gone. Could it be that we're fine? Haha, as I said, the demon clan is already on the verge of extinction. How could they still dare to clash with our immortal cultivation sects? Didn't they still leave with their tails between their legs? However, we should hurry back to avoid any more accidents." Di Shitian suddenly took away all the tigers. The three white-boned sect disciples, who were still focusing all their energy on the battle, were shocked for a while. They found it hard to believe that they could escape with their lives so easily. At the same time as they were shocked, they were also overjoyed. But in the blink of an eye, the thought of leaving quickly arose. However, when they turned around to escape, they found that the invisible restriction around them was still there. There was an incomparably tough barrier in the invisible air. There was no way to break it. Clink. At this moment, the sound of metal colliding became even clearer. When they heard it again, it seemed that there was a strange magic in this sound. When they heard it, even their souls would be shaken. It was like a kind of soul-stealing demonic sound. Their minds couldn't help but be attracted. Crash. The three cultivators also heard the strange sound. They wanted to quickly leave this place, but they were trapped in this small area. In front of them was a small hill. Behind the hill was the location of the sound. What is it? What is it? This sound is even causing my soul to leave my body. It's too scary. It's even scarier than the Demon King. How despicable. He must know that a powerful expert is coming, but he still bound us here. He wants to kill with a borrowed knife. What the hell is this sound? My body is emitting cold air. For a moment, the three cultivators gathered together and stared at the hill in horror. Crash. Patter. In the blink of an eye, the strange sound seemed to ring in their ears. Heavy footsteps seemed to cause the hill to tremble. A tall and sturdy figure walked out from behind the hill. It's a human. He was very tall and sturdy. He was more than 2 meters tall and had a strong physique. At first glance, one would have the illusion of looking at a small giant. He was wearing a pitch-black tight-fitting suit. His pitch-black long hair was messily draped over his shoulders, wantonly fluttering in the wind. His perfect muscles were completely exposed under the tight-fitting suit. It was filled with explosive power. His muscles were like coiling dragons. That might was enough to shock most cultivators with weak wills. The strangest thing was that on his back, there was a strange black coffin that looked like a black crystal. The black coffin emitted strands of black gas, and there were countless strange and mysterious talismans on it. They were densely packed and distributed on every inch of the black coffin. It was even more sinister. On the black coffin, 9 black iron chains as thick as water arms stretched out and bound the burly man's body, arms, legs, chest, and neck. His abdomen and other parts of his body were all wrapped by these strange iron chains. The iron chains were filled with the same black gas that enveloped his entire body. The long iron chains dragged on the ground, and when they moved, they naturally emitted strange metallic sounds. From head to toe, This strange burly man had a strange aura that didn't seem like a living person. It was like a corpse that crawled out from the underworld. If one looked carefully, one could see that wherever the burly man walked, the grass and trees on the ground withered and turned into ashes. The ground turned black and withered. It was as if it had been burned. All life was extinguished. Corpse chi, this is corpse chi. What a terrifying corpse chi. It can actually destroy all things. All life is gone in an instant. Di Shitian's heart was in turmoil. He stared blankly at the burly man carrying the black coffin with a horrified expression. That black gas wasn't demonic gas. It carried a deathly aura. Wherever it passed, as long as it touched something, all life would be sucked out and all things would be extinguished. However, there seemed to be a trace of life in the black coffin. It was very strange. When this person appeared, the three cultivators who had been feeling uneasy all this time seemed to have seen the most inconceivable thing in the world. Their eyes suddenly widened, and their mouths opened unconsciously, revealing a stunned expression. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 353. Coffin. Coffin bearer. At this time, the three cultivators who had been swaggering and arrogant at the beginning could be said to be completely dumbfounded. Their faces were pale, and they had a look of despair. Even when they spoke, their teeth were trembling. They were so shocked that they could not speak. It seemed that they would faint on the spot at any time. Impossible, impossible. How could the coffin bearer be here? It's over. It's really over this time. Coffin bearer, heavens, corpse demon, wasn't corpse demon sealed and killed? How could it be here? I don't want to die. Damned demon king, if you want to leave, then leave. Why did you have to seal this place? Break, open for me. Driven by fear, the three cultivators began to madly attack the invisible restriction behind them. All sorts of talismans and various magical tools they had collected were thrown at the restriction without any hesitation. They immediately caused them to self-destruct. The destructive power that erupted caused the surrounding space to rumble violently. Dozens of magic tools were thrown out without hesitation, and they actually managed to blast open a hole in the invisible restriction. Without even thinking, the three of them directly passed through the hole, and with a wave of the bone spears in their hands, they were about to break through the air and flee for their lives. Crash. However, the large man who carried the strange black coffin on his back and gave off an unapproachable aura looked at the three of them with his lifeless eyes. He raised his left arm and the black iron chain wrapped around his arm instantly swung forward like a snake. The iron chain extended forward without limit and instantly extended over 100 jong. It didn't seem fast, but in the blink of an eye, it crossed the boundary of the void and appeared in front of the three cultivators. The three cultivators didn't even have time to react before the chain wrapped around them, and the black corpse aura on the chain covered them. Clatter. The chains rolled back, and the black coffin on the burly man's back flickered with countless strange talismans. The tightly closed lid of the coffin suddenly opened, and the three cultivators on the chains were sucked into the black coffin. With a bang, the black coffin closed again, and a dense corpse aura filled the air. All life within a 10-meter radius was devoured by the black coffin. Keep away all living things, and all living things will perish. The three core formation cultivators didn't even have the time to scream before they were swallowed up by the black coffin. From beginning to end, they didn't even have the chance to make a decent counterattack. It could be said to be extremely terrifying. A strange aura pervaded the air. Crash. After the three of them were sucked into the black coffin, the corpse chi around the black coffin and the burly man seemed to have thickened a little. However, the burly man did not stop moving. His eyes were still filled with a deathly light as he dragged the heavy, pitch-black chain and walked forward step by step. Wherever he went, all life was extinguished. No living thing could survive. The flowers and plants withered instantly. The ancient trees withered and decayed at a speed visible to the naked eye. No matter what was in front of him, he continued to walk forward without changing his direction. The pitch-black barren land behind him was a straight line, without the slightest bend in the slightest. When he walked past, the strange coffin-bearer's footsteps slightly paused. He raised his head and glanced at the floating cloud ship. Those ice-cold eyes without a trace of life were like the gaze of the god of the underworld. It made one's heart feel ice-cold and suffocated. However, for some unknown reason, he didn't stop. He continued to walk forward with determination. All the plants in front of him were extinguished. All living things were sucked into the black coffin. What a terrifying gaze. It actually made me feel as if I could smell the scent of death in an instant. Di Shitian's expression was grave. The tiger soul on his back was constantly trembling without any warning. The low roars of the tiger were continuous. It seemed to be frightened, but also seemed to be excited. It was a trembling cry that wanted to challenge him. The tiger soul was now a demon weapon at the level of a magic treasure. It had a spirituality that it didn't have before it was promoted. If it continued to be nurtured and nourished, there would be a day when it would become an artifact soul like the underworld. It would become the saber spirit of the tiger soul. Although this wisp of spirituality was still very weak, it was born with an unyielding fighting spirit that would not yield to any powerhouse. Even when it sensed the terrifying aura emanating from the mysterious coffin-carrying man, it was still not afraid. It let out a soft cry and was not afraid to fight. He gently patted the tiger soul on his back to calm it down. He watched the coffin-bearer's back as he left. That strange black coffin. I don't know what kind of strange demonic creature that black coffin is. I can feel that there is an inconceivable power in it. Corpse chi. Such a dense and terrifying corpse chi. Could it be that this burly man isn't a living person, but a zombie? It was unknown when an ancient mirror had appeared in Medusa's hand. She played with it in a practiced manner. Those star-like eyes, which seemed to be able to freeze everything, involuntarily revealed traces of shock. If one were to look carefully, one would discover that an enormous amount of demonic chi had already covered her entire body, ready to be spat out at any moment. It could be seen how afraid she was just now. Zombie. Di Shitian shook his head and smiled bitterly. Zombies weren't things that could be easily played with. They carried the resentment, evil, and filth of heaven and earth. They were reborn with an endless stream of chi and an undying obsession. They were immortal and indestructible. They didn't exist in the 3 realms or the 6 realms. They existed alone outside of the 3 realms. They used endless blood to vent their resentment. Almost no one in the world could restrain the experts among the zombies. Of course, this only applied to the zombie kings who were blessed by the heavens. For example, in the cultivation world of the continent, there was a branch of corpse cultivation. They used a secret method to refine dead bodies into zombies. They didn't fear death and didn't feel pain. Their bodies were like copper skin and iron bones that couldn't be penetrated by swords and spears. If they refined a life origin corpse deity, they might be able to refine a terrifying corpse deity. That would be truly terrifying. Thinking of some memories about zombies, Di Shitian secretly became more vigilant. He shook his head and threw all these messy thoughts to the back of his mind. He said, "Forget it. After all, there are too many inconceivable things on the Zijin continent. There are all kinds of mysterious places. No one knows how many strange things there are in this vast and boundless territory. As long as this coffin carrier doesn't attack us, we don't need to think too much. Sooner or later, we will find out about his background." After he finished speaking, he took a deep look at the strange figure. Then, he retracted his gaze and looked at the group of tigers on the boat. "How did you get chased by 3 immortal cultivators? Where did you live, King?" Upon hearing Sakra's question, all the tigers in the surroundings started to sob. Their gazes towards him contained both excitement and respect, as well as deep grief and hatred. After listening to the narration of the 3 tigers, who had already cultivated to the early stage of demonic beasts, he finally understood the whole story. It turned out that there was a valley 100 miles away from here, which they called the Tigers' Roar Valley. At some point in time, a group of tigers moved into the valley. At first, there were not many of them, but slowly, gradually, they reproduced on their own. In addition, The tigers in the nearby forest heard the news and moved into the valley. Gradually, it became a breeding ground for tigers, and they gathered into a group of tigers. It was said that at its peak, the total number of tigers reached hundreds. They were the well-deserved overlords of that forest. 1,000 years ago, the terrain of the tigers' raw valley suddenly changed. A large amount of spiritual energy emerged from the valley. Although it could not be compared with the myriad demon valley, it was still abundant. Under such spiritual energy, the tigers began to instinctively change. First, they were born with spirituality. Then, they began to instinctively absorb the spiritual energy in the valley. After absorbing the spiritual energy, they realized that their strength and abilities were constantly increasing, making them even more powerful. In the natural world, strength was the only law. After knowing the benefits of absorbing spiritual energy, they all began to absorb it. Those who were born with spirituality could be found everywhere. It was very prosperous. Until now, there were still hundreds of tigers in the valley. All of them had spirituality. They could be said to be blessed by nature. If nothing unexpected happened, they would continue to live like this and live as usual if they did not leave the valley. However, this peace was not broken by the three cultivators. The cultivators, who could fly, use all kinds of magic arts, and use all kinds of magical instruments and magic weapons, were simply like gods. As soon as they entered the valley, they went on a killing spree. They killed the tigers as soon as they saw them. The tigers used to be successful in killing ordinary beasts, but when it came to the cultivators, they were just like children playing house. On the surface, they were abnormally powerless. A large number of tigers died tragically under the butcher's knife. In the end, some demonic beast-level tigers desperately resisted the attacks from behind and let them escape. But then, those cultivators still caught up with them. What happened next was what they saw before. When Di Shitian heard it, the purple mark on his forehead flickered continuously. His face was cold, as if his anger was about to erupt at any time. How could he not know? It must be the cultivators who coveted the demon bodies and the demon cores condensed from the essence of the demon beasts after they died. They would kill all of them when they saw them. This was the usual behavior of the cultivators. Humph! He snorted coldly and looked at them. Your valley is no longer safe. If you continue to stay, there will be problems sooner or later. If you don't have anywhere to go, go to my myriad demon valley first. When you reach the valley, I will naturally arrange for you. Everything will wait for me to go back. He did not intend to say too much to them. In the clan, the strong had always been the king. Di Shitian's own strength could be said to be vast to the tigers in front of him. They had long been respectful and in awe of him. The heaven-defying method just now had actually transmitted the cultivation method and the tiger raw sound wave technique into their minds out of thin air, making them look at Di Shitian with the same kind of burning gaze. It was as if a savior had appeared in a crisis. That kind of feeling was almost fanatical, as if the seed of Di Shitian had been directly planted in their hearts. It rose to the level of faith and was the only thing they could rely on in their hearts. When they heard that Di Shitian asked them to go to the Myriad Demon Valley, they did not have the slightest resistance. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 354. This time, the main purpose of coming out was to go to the Five Elements mountain range. It was a complete accident that he met the Tiger Clan. It was impossible for him to return to the Southern Barbarian because of them. Speaking of which, with the speed of the tigers, it would take about 5 to 6 days to reach the Southern Barbarian. However, if they could enter the Southern Barbarian Valley safely, it would also be a rare experience for them. Then, he directly imprinted the map of the Southern Barbarian into their minds and took out a jade talisman to roughly record what happened here. It also explained some things about how to arrange the tigers. The jade talisman was given to them. It was used to prove their identity after entering the Southern Barbarian Valley. A talisman was inserted into each tiger's body. At critical moments, they could save their lives. After doing this, he let them all go down. On the way, when he heard that the 3 demon beasts of the tiger clan didn't have a name yet, Di Shitian thought about it and gave them a surname. Their surname was Hu, and the biggest one was Hu Zhantian, followed by Hu Jingtian, Hu Xiaotian. They would lead the clan to the 10,000 Demon Valley. Tiger was the clan's surname, but in Di Shitian's heart, it had a deeper meaning. Tiger is the clan's surname. Anyone with the bloodline of the Tiger clan can have the surname Tiger, but the real royal family of the clan should have the surname Di. The Tiger clan was his clan. When one person achieved the Tao, his chickens and dogs would ascend to the heavens. He would spend a lot of effort to improve the status of the Tiger clan in the 10,000 Demon Valley and become the royal family of the Demon clan in the valley. However, his family, his bloodline, should be the royal family of the royal family. The surname of Di was the most appropriate. For example, Little White. For those close to him, it was not inappropriate to call him Little White. It was also a form of intimacy. However, if an unrelated stranger was also called Xiao Bai, that was an insult. Only with a name could one have a foothold. Di Shitian pondered. The Tiger clan had a surname, so Xiao Bai should also have his own name. His surname was Di, so Xiao Bai should follow his surname. Alright, I'll give Xiao Bai a surprise when we return to the valley. A trace of gentleness flashed through Di Shitian's heart. The floating cloud ship continued to move forward. It was hidden in the layers of clouds. The surrounding white clouds had a great concealment effect. Even if an ordinary person raised their head to look, they would only see patches of clouds. They wouldn't be able to see the shape of the floating cloud ship. After the episode, neither Di Shitian nor Medusa was in the mood to continue the conversation. They were either meditating on the boat or enjoying the scenery below. On the way, they ran into several situations where the demons were being hunted. Di Shitian, who was already in a bad mood, was blown into smithereens on the spot. What was weird was that the souls of the immortal cultivators who were blown to pieces disappeared into the purple mark on their forehead. It was as if his innate ability had not been taken away and was still there. It was extremely mystical. The 5 Elements mountain range stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The mountain peaks rose and fell. They were steep and strange. Strange flowers and grasses covered every corner. There were ancient trees that were several zhong tall. Many wild beasts were freely hunting for food. It was very vast. In the center of the mountain range, there were 5 mountain peaks with different temperaments and shapes. They emitted different auras. They were divided into the 5 peaks of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Each mountain peak was very strange because there was only a single type of spiritual energy of the 5 elements on top of them. For example, the mountain peak of metal element was filled with metal essence energy everywhere. It was sharp and murderous. If one practiced metal element cultivation techniques on top of it, they would definitely advance 1,000 miles in a day. There was also a sword tomb on top of it. Inside the sword tomb, there were countless sharp blades condensed from metal essence energy. The 5 mountains were of different attributes and belonged to the 5 elements. However, they were mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. When combined together, they formed a natural 5 elements great formation. The creation of nature was miraculous. It was truly a work of the gods that could not be fathomed. But now, in the sky above the 5 Elements mountain range, there were streaks of light of various colors and even the sword light of flying swords. There were many of them in the sky above the 5 Elements peak. There were many of them, one after another, rising and falling. From time to time, there would be a strong aura emitted. In the sky above the mountain peak, there would be colorful lights. Immortal cultivators rose into the sky one after another. Flying with the wind, it was really like a world of immortals. It was unknown how many immortal cultivators there were. They came and went one after another. It was difficult to count them all. In many places, there were tents erected. Large groups of cultivators lived in them. There were also markets of various sizes that appeared from time to time. It was very lively inside. Cultivators looked back and forth in the markets, looking for the items they wanted. It was as if there was a large-scale festival held here. On the other side, demonic aura filled the air. The evil aura in the sky did not dissipate for a long time. Demonic flames filled the sky and filled the entire void. It was very strange. A large number of demons gathered in twos and threes, staring in the direction of the five elements peak. The hatred in their eyes was still deeply imprinted in the bottom of their hearts. With a casual glance, one would find that there were no less than 100,000 demons gathered in front of them. This number had probably occupied more than half of the remaining demons on the purple gold mainland. Even if there were still demons, they would hide in the mountains and forests. There would not be too many of them. It could be said that at this moment, most of the elites of the demon race were gathered here. They were the real family assets. If they were destroyed, the demon race would not be far from extinction. However, when the demon race was united, they were unprecedentedly strong. At this moment, they were probably the strongest they had been in tens of thousands of years. They were not at a disadvantage when fighting against the entire immortal cultivation world. Relying on the powerful combat power of the 8 demon kings, they were able to level the situation. In this mountain range, they were in a stalemate. No one could do anything to the other. This had a lot to do with the mysterious departure of the cultivators above the tribulation stage in the immortal cultivation world. However, it was undeniable that at this moment, the immortal cultivation world could not afford to pay such a heavy price to fight the 8 demon kings and destroy the elites of the demon race in front of them. After all, there were many sects in the immortal cultivation world. It was very difficult to unite all of them. At this moment, on the demon race's side, a huge cave had been dug out in a valley. The cave was so wide that even if 1,000 people came in at the same time, it would not feel crowded. Here, there were 7 demon kings who were emitting a unique pressure and temperament. They surrounded a stone table. There were all kinds of food on the table. There was a large plate of sparkling and round rice that was like a pearl. This was pearl rice planted in a sect. It was a kind of spiritual rice. It contained spiritual energy and was sweet and delicious. Other kinds of spiritual fruits and wild game were placed on the table. They were exquisite and filled the whole table. There was wine, food, and spiritual fruits. There were many good things. Even the sect leader of a sect would be jealous of them. Among the 7 here, there were Silver Hair, the Blood Dragon King, the Golden Wingbat King, and Baizian. The other 3 looked a little unfamiliar. However, since they were on the same level as them, their identities were obvious. Sitting at the head of the table was a white-robed man with a snow-white feather fan in his hand. He looked like a weak scholar. There was not the slightest hint of muscle on his body. His snow-white hair was tied up behind his head by a lavender ribbon. There was always a faint smile on his face. He waved the feather fan slightly. He had an extraordinary demeanor and had the style of Zhuge Liang. One of them sat under his silver hair. His face was very old, like a pine tree that had grown for tens of thousands of years. The hair on his head was very messy, but there seemed to be a huge breath of life in his old body. He was unbelievably strong. His turbid eyes were full of vicissitudes of life. The other one had 6 moustaches on his mouth that looked like a rat's. He looked extremely wretched. Anyone who saw him at first glance would have the impression that he was a bad guy. As for the others, including Silver Hair and the others, there was a total of 7 people sitting here. It was disdainful to say that the people here were naturally 7 of the 8 great monster kings who were renowned throughout the world. The leader of the 8 demon kings was the white-robed young man who looked like a weak scholar. His name was the Snowwing Rock Demon King. His original form was the Snowwing Rock. He was born in the snow prison of the South Pole and had lived the longest. He was also one of the strongest among all the monster kings. The second was Silver Hair, who was known as the Nightmare Demon King. His original form was the extremely rare silver-winged dream butterfly. He was born with the ability to enter the dreams of living creatures. This escape was not done through his spiritual consciousness, but with his body. It was extremely strange. He relied on the ability to easily enter the dreams of others. His experience was immeasurably rich. Every dream he experienced was an experience for his spirit. His state of mind was also rare. If he could not control his state of mind and entered other people's dreams, he would be completely brought into the dream and be unable to distinguish the difference between reality and dream. He would sink into it. He would be doomed eternally. The third was the old man next to him. Although he looked old as if he was about to die at any time, he was a tree king who had lived for countless years. No one knew why his original form was an ancient tree. They only knew that the life force in his body was unbelievably strong. His demon chi was extremely deep. As long as there were trees in the forest, he could control all the ancient trees and stimulate the hidden power in those ancient trees that had lived for countless years. He could turn them into powerful treants with powerful combat strength. People called him the ancient demon tree king. The fourth was Bai Xian, who seemed to be indifferent to everything. She was focused on the bamboo in her hand. She was a demon formed from invisible smoke. She was the most ethereal and mysterious. She almost had an immortal body. As long as a wisp of smoke escaped, she could reform her demon body in a short time. The bamboo in her hand was a mysterious spiritual root. The fifth was the Blood Dragon King. There was no need to say too much about his strange power. His original form was a mutated blood dragon. He was lascivious by nature. The sixth was the Golden-Winged Bat King. His original form was a golden-winged vampire bat. He was very evil. The seventh was the Sky-Devouring Rat King. He was also a mutated species left behind from ancient times. His innate ability was very powerful. In a desperate situation, there were not many who dared to fight him one-on-one. The last one was the Heavenly Fragrance Fox King, Su Tianxiang. Her origin was not inferior to any of the demon kings. She could be said to be the king of the fox clan, the nine-tailed heavenly fox, also known as the nine-tailed demon fox. Unfortunately, she was not here at the moment. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 355. Each of the 8 great demon kings had strength that far exceeded that of ordinary demon kings. Their realm was called Demon King, but they were not demon kings who were called demon kings as soon as they condensed their inner cores. Instead, they had truly reached the realm of ancient demon kings. In other words, any one of them was an expert with a 4th transformation demon core. The 3rd transformation was the peak of the demon realm, while the 4th transformation was a completely different realm. After the 9th transformation was Demon Sage. Condensing an inner core was comparable to a nascent soul cultivator in the cultivation world. The 1st transformation was comparable to an out-of-body cultivator, the 2nd transformation was comparable to a spirit-severing cultivator, the 3rd transformation was comparable to a unity cultivator, and the 4th transformation was comparable to a tribulation transcendence cultivator. The demon race's demon body was far stronger than that of a human cultivator's. Their vitality was extremely vigorous, and when they fought, the combat power they could unleash was even more shocking. In a fight between cultivators of the same level, they were often more powerful than cultivators. If a demon race member who had condensed an inner core really went all out, they could match 2 or 3 nascent soul cultivators. In addition to their own talents and divine abilities, their strength would be even more ferocious. This was also the reason why the demon race was able to dominate the world and intimidate all living beings in the ancient times. Of course, the demon race was currently lacking in cultivation techniques, and all kinds of offensive demon techniques and divine abilities were extremely lacking. Even if they had condensed an inner core, they might not have any powerful techniques. In a desperate fight, they would be extremely powerful if they could block 1 or 2 cultivators of the same level. However, the strength of the ancient demon kings was obvious. Each of them was comparable to a tribulation transcendence cultivator. When they fought, they could even match an immortal transformation cultivator. If they had a 5th transformation demon core, then even an immortal transformation cultivator in the cultivation world would be trampled to pieces. Thus, one could understand how powerful the 8 great demon kings were. Especially the most mysterious Demon King, the Snow-Wing Rock Demon King, whose strength was above the other 7 Demon Kings. Old Meng, what do you think about this immortal demon competition? The Rock Demon King waved the feather fan in his hand and looked at Silver Hair, who was holding a gourd and drinking fine wine. There was a kind of calmness in his voice, but the faint smile at the corner of his mouth did not change. He looked like a weak scholar. If one did not see it for themselves, no one would believe that the person before them was the strongest of the 8 Fiend Kings. Silver Hair said sarcastically, not forgetting to pour a mouthful of spirit wine into his mouth. He said, "Everyone knows why the Immortals and Demons competition is held this time. The Immortal Cultivation Realm took advantage of the absence of our elites to launch a ruthless siege. This time, our demon tribe suffered a great loss and our foundation was damaged. Some of the new demon tribes with great potential were slaughtered. The loss is so great that we won't be able to recover even in 1,000 years." As he spoke, even the wine in his mouth seemed to contain a hint of bitterness. He gulped it down and said, "Even if the demon clan is unprecedentedly united, unleashing a huge potential and destroying hundreds of sects, it still can't make up for the huge losses we suffered this time. The world of cultivators wants to destroy our foundation. If it weren't for the 8 of us holding the fort here, I'm afraid they'll annihilate these elites in one fell swoop. All of the cultivators above the transcending tribulation stage have gone to that place, resulting in the current situation where neither of us can do anything to the other. However, this time, the conditions offered by those old foxes in the world of cultivators do not allow us to refuse. The demon transformation pool, even if there is a 1 in 10,000 chance, is worth us fighting for." Silver Hair's eyes, which seemed to have seen through everything in the world, suddenly shot out 2 shocking rays of light, extremely sharp. It seemed to be able to pierce through everything. Similarly, in the eyes of the other 6 Fiend Kings, the same light flashed. "That's right. As long as there is a demon transformation pool, it's worth it even if we have to pay a huge price." Thinking about it, the demon transformation pool has been lost for countless years since ancient times. I didn't expect to hear it here. The Demon Tree King, whose face was full of vicissitudes, said in an unusually hoarse voice, "It's so hateful that the venue of the Immortals and Demons competition is actually in the Tower of Babel. This tower has always been easy to enter but difficult to leave. It connects to the underground abyss and suppresses the savage abyss. In the competition, the Demon Kings with the strength of ancient Demon Kings like us are not allowed to enter. The situation is worrying." There was also a trace of helplessness in his words. "They don't allow us to enter. Do they really think these schemes will succeed?" Silver Hair said disdainfully, "After the competition, I have already sent a voice transmission talisman to Di Shitian. Seeing the talisman, with his temperament, he will definitely come to help. With his arrival, our demon clan may not lose this competition." If we add 8th sister Tian Xiong, there should be a certain chance of finding the whereabouts of the demon transformation pool. The demon transformation pool is the most precious treasure of our demon clan. If it is really sealed in the Tower of Babel as those cultivators said, with the demon clan's bloodline, once we get close, we will sense it. 8th sister rashly went to the land of the fallen gods. Although she found the heavenly treasure box, she suffered an irreparable injury and her cultivation fell to the Demon King realm. Now, she is the most suitable candidate to go to the Tower of Babel. In addition to the Di Shitian you mentioned, there may be a chance to take back the treasure. The Rock Demon King nodded slightly. He gently waved the feather fan in his hand and continued, "However, if it really comes down to it, there is no need to care about those agreements. Even if we lose the competition, we must force our way into the Tower of Babel. If we don't find the demon transformation pool, our demon clan will sooner or later go to the end. If the demon clan has no successor, even with the few of us here, it will only exist in name." Hearing this, the demon kings present couldn't help but nod in agreement. Their expressions were different degrees of seriousness. The importance they attached to the demon transformation pool had reached an inestimable level. From their words, it seemed that for the sake of the demon clan, the so-called competition between the immortals and demons was no longer important. What was important was how to find the demon transformation pool. As long as they could obtain it, they wouldn't hesitate to pay a great price. There was a hidden implication that they would use any means necessary. If they knew what the demon transformation pool was, they wouldn't be surprised by their words. Speaking of the demon transformation pool, its reputation among the demon clan was no less than the demon summoning banner. This pool was the foundation for the continuation of the demon clan. Legend had it that in ancient times, a peerless expert of the demon clan had died in battle. At the end of his life, he had given up his last chance of survival and gathered all his life force together to form a pool. The water in the pool seemed to be formed from the blood of that peerless expert. It was a dark green color like amber. Inside the pool, there seemed to be an endless amount of demonic energy. There was an inconceivable mystery inside. Since then, the pool formed by the sacrifice of this peerless expert was known as the demonic transformation pool. Any demon would have a chance to bathe in the pool. Bathing in the pool could cleanse one's marrows and tendons and cleanse one's demonic body. It could increase one's potential. It was the best gift that Ancestor had bestowed upon the younger generation. This was not the most magical thing about it. It was another incredible ability that made it the most precious treasure of the demon clan. In the world, there was the purple thunder rain that could make thousands of birds, beasts, flowers, and trees gain intelligence and become demon bodies. However, the demon transformation pool had the same ability. As long as any bird or beast bathed in the pool once, an ordinary beast's body would instantly turn into a demon body and gain intelligence. It could transform into a demon body. As long as it existed, the demon clan would never go extinct. They would have an endless stream of descendants. Endless growth. However, the demon chi in the pool would also be consumed by the demon transformation pool. Once it was exhausted, it would lose its effect. Therefore, the demon clan would always throw a large number of the corpses of their enemies into the demon transformation pool. The demon transformation pool was extremely beneficial to living beings. However, as for dead corpses, once they fell into the pool, they would instantly be decomposed into the demon transformation pool's demon chi and used to create more new demon clan members. One was for new life, and the other was for devouring. In the ancient era, most of the enemies that were killed by the demon clan would be thrown into the demon transformation pool as nourishment. However, it was undeniable that the demon transformation pool was important to the demon clan. With it, the demon transformation pool could allow the demon clan to gain new life. In a short period of time, a large number of new demon clan members could be created to make up for the lack of demon clan members and the fact that it was too difficult for them to be born. It was enough to ensure that the demon clan would never go extinct. If they could obtain the demon transformation pool, the merit for the demon clan would be enough for future generations to worship. Brother Di, we should be arriving soon. Silver Hair looked out of the cave silently with a strange glint in his eyes. However, he was gulping down a few mouthfuls of spirit wine from time to time. The other monster kings also had thoughtful looks on their faces, as if they were thinking about something. The 5 elements chi here is unusually rich. There are many immortal cultivators in front and demonic aura on the other side. If I'm not wrong, this should be the 5 elements mountain range. Just as Silver Hair was thinking about Di Shetien, a huge spirit boat appeared at the edge of the 5 elements mountain range. Di Shetien and Medusa stood at the bow of the boat and looked around. Seeing that the 5 elements chi in the mountain range was much richer than other places and that cultivators and demons were at odds with each other, how could they not know that this should be the 5 elements mountain range that Silver Hair was talking about? The opposing scenes in the mountain range were clear. One side was filled with cultivators while the other side was filled with demonic aura. It was extremely distinct. If they could not even tell that, they could be blind. What should we do now? Medusa played with the ancient mirror and looked at Di Shetien with a look that said, I'll let you decide. Yes. Di Shetien pondered for a moment and said, the 5 elements mountain range is now the place where the immortal cultivation world and the demon clan are in a stalemate. According to Silver Hair, if I'm not wrong, there should be 8 demon kings gathered here at this moment. Now that we're here, let's find silver hair first and discuss other things. I'm still confused about the immortal demon competition. There was a glint in his eyes. He had come for the immortal demon competition. Whether it was for public or private reasons, he had to get involved in this competition. However, Silverhair had only mentioned the reason for the immortal demon competition in the Jade Talisman. He had not mentioned the details of the competition. Instinctively, he sensed that there was more to it than met the eye. Ha. Suddenly, just as Di Shitian stopped the floating cloud boat in the sky above the mountain range and did not move for the time being, a strange and charming laughter came from the void and reached Di Shitian's ears. At the same time, the scenery in front of him suddenly changed. His whole body was inexplicably pulled from the Five Elements mountain range into a strange world. Di Shitian's expression became serious and his eyes swept around. He saw that there was a dense ghost aura everywhere in front of him. It was a group of evil spirits with 2 horns on their heads. They had big mouths and mouths full of fangs. Their eyes were glowing with a green light. They were huge, and each of them was more than 2 meters tall. They were holding a slender and ferocious ghost blade in their hands. With a swoosh, they all stared at him. TSK. The evil spirit closest to Di Shitian opened its mouth full of fangs and fiercely chopped down with its blade. A dense ghost aura completely enveloped the entire ghost blade. It was as fast as lightning, and the angle was very tricky. The ghost blade was confusing and unpredictable. It was very strange, and waves of chilling ghost howls continuously poured into one's mind. Xiao Chen let out a heavy snort. He stretched out his hand and slapped the scabbard on Tiger Soul. Tiger Soul let out a low but domineering tiger roar. The saber flew out of the scabbard and flew above his head. Xiao Chen stretched out his right hand and grabbed Tiger Soul's slender saber hilt. The moment he grabbed it, Tiger Soul also let out a cheerful cry. It carried a bloodthirsty aura and looked forward to fighting side by side with its master and drinking the enemy's blood. Catcher. The moment he grasped Tiger Soul, he felt that Tiger Soul was like his own arm. The feeling of being connected by blood was perfectly presented in his heart. The tiger opened its eyes and shot out 2 oppressive lights that seemed to be able to pierce people's eyes and blind them. The golden blade slashed out diagonally and pulled out a golden blade screen in midair. It engulfed the evil spirit and instantly cut it in 2. It turned into smoke and dissipated. But then, the evil spirits around him, which were like an ocean, stared at him with green eyes like a tide. They waved their battle blades and let out strange ghost cries. They crazily surged toward Di Shitian. Countless ghost blades fell from the sky and covered the earth. His entire body was instantly covered by countless attacks. Kill. After Sakura killed that evil spirit, the tiger soul in his hand did not stop in the slightest. Facing the sea of thousands of ghosts, not only was he not afraid, he even took a heavy step forward. This step looked like the walk of a dragon or a tiger. As he walked, it also carried an arrogant and domineering aura. A tragic murderous aura shot out as the tiger soul slashed one blade after another. It was simple yet carried an extremely powerful murderous aura. He was as fast as lightning, but at the same time, he looked extremely slow. He slashed out hundreds of times, and the afterimages of Tiger Soul appeared in front of him. His saber skills were even more exquisite than before. The power contained in each saber strike was just right. Every saber strike was exquisite. It was as if each saber strike was following the trajectory of the heavens and earth. It carried an endless power and was unstoppable. Although there were many evil spirits in front of him, they were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered under Tiger Soul. With every slash, a large number of evil spirits were killed on the spot. The evil spirits in the sky could not touch his clothes at all. Raw. Brandishing his blade a few times, Indra's long hair fluttered wildly behind his back. He suddenly faced the sky and let out a tyrannical tiger roar. This tiger roar seemed to be able to shatter the heavens. The surrounding space was violently trembling, and countless evil spirits were instantly annihilated. After the tiger roar, a sound wave like a wave rapidly spread out in all directions. Wherever the sound waves passed, the space distorted. Large numbers of evil spirits were destroyed as if they were grass being cut. In the blink of an eye, the entire space was cleared. Not a single evil spirit was spared. Clang. Tiger soul returned to its scabbard. Di Shitian said indifferently, Tian Xiong, that's enough joking. You should be able to come out now. He stood in this strange space with a calm expression. There was not a hint of worry on his face. He raised his voice and said, "Ha ha." As soon as his voice fell, a burst of laughter that was as clear as a silver bell rang out. That laughter was so loud that even one's bones were about to fall off. Amidst the laughter, a peerless beauty wearing a plain white robe with a ribbon around her waist and a lavender wooden hairpin on her head appeared out of thin air with a sweet smile on her face. Her figure was graceful and graceful. Every time she smiled, there was a soul-stirring charm. It was as if she was truly a masterpiece of the heavens. Her beauty could not be described with words that could cause the downfall of a city. It was certain that the men in front of her would be intoxicated by her boundless charm at first sight. They would be unable to extricate themselves and be driven by her. Whether it was anger or laughter, they all had a bewitching power that could steal one's soul. Her charm was innate. It was a unique charm that she was born with. Waves of strange fragrance drifted in all directions. It made one unconsciously lose themselves in it. It was none other than the heavenly fragrance fox monarch, Su Tianxiang. Shitian, I didn't expect you to become so powerful in just a few years. Not only have you condensed an inner core, but you've also broken through to the first transformation of the Yaodan. Looking at the depth of your cultivation, I'm afraid you're already at the peak of the first transformation. You're only a step away from the second transformation. You dared to barge into the heavenly demon secret realm and cross the heavenly yin-yang bridge. Even the illusion I set up now can't do anything to you. To be honest, your speed of growth has surprised even me. Su Tianxiang's arms were wrapped around the ribbon, which hung in front of her. She descended from the void step by step. Every step she took caused ripples in the void under her feet. Her clear voice came out of her seductive red lips, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, magnifying her charm. Looking at Sakura, who was standing proudly in front of him, his body was tall and straight like an eternal ancient peak that had existed since ancient times, proud and unyielding, with his usual indifference and majesty between his eyebrows. He secretly sighed in his heart. 10 years, in just 10 years, he could actually grow from an ignorant and ordinary king of beasts to today's height. Shitian, oh Shitian, what kind of weirdo did I create with a single thought back then? If there was anyone in this world who understood Di Shitian the most, it would undoubtedly be her. Starting from Tiger Hill, she gave Di Shitian a bottle of spirit-gathering pills with a single thought, which allowed him to embark on the path of demon cultivation and establish his foundation. In just 10 years, he grew from nothing to a demon monarch with a first transformation of the Yaodan. How many levels had he crossed in this process? To them, a short 10 years was like a snap of the fingers. Yet, Di Shitian had grown to such an unimaginable level. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. Tianxiang, Di Shitian looked at Bai Hu with a hint of complexity in his eyes. He could only call out her name and couldn't continue. Haha, Shitian, after so many years, don't you have anything to say to me when we meet again? If that's the case, this little fox will be very sad. Tianxiang's eyes revealed a hint of slyness. She chuckled as she spoke, and at the same time, she pretended to cover her heart with a heartbroken expression. That sorrowful expression made people feel pity for him even though they knew it was fake. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 356. Di Shitian's mind was shaken, but the Imperial Tyrant Heart Mantra in the Imperial Book of Shocking the World made his state of mind extremely tough. My body is the Emperor, and my heart is the Emperor's heart. Nothing can affect my mind. He recovered from his momentary loss, but he was still in awe. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This Bai Hu was really a demon. Her every move and smile could charm all living things. This invisible charm was innate. If she used some charming means, even a Buddha with a pure heart and few desires would abandon Buddhism and become a demon. Don't use your charming power on me. Taking a deep breath, he frowned slightly and looked at Bai Hu. Humph, you are really a block of wood. Bai Hu heard this and couldn't help but curl her lips. She said slightly angrily, I don't know if you still remember the agreement I made with you back then. A pair of beautiful eyes fell on Di Shitian's face and looked at him seriously. It seemed that she was trying to find the expression she wanted on his face. I remember. 16 years later, I will go to the Green Mountains to find you, Di Shitian said calmly. The ribbon on Bai Hu's wrist fluttered. When she heard him say the agreement without hesitation, she nodded slightly and said with satisfaction, You still have some conscience and didn't forget the agreement we made back then. Otherwise, I won't let you go easily. At that time, what you will see will not be those useless little demons, but a large group of demons. As she said this, she waved her hand slightly in front of her, and a cloud pavilion appeared directly. In the pavilion, there was a pot of warm wine that had been boiled. There were some mellow spiritual fruits on it that could relieve fatigue. They entered the pavilion and sat down opposite each other. Bai Hu warmed the wine and poured a cup for each of them. This wine was a part of the monkey wine that she had taken from the Demon Valley. Although the taste of the wine was the same, the state of mind was particularly different. Looking at Bai Hu before him, Xiao Chen had a complicated expression in his eyes. The past flowed in his heart like a clear spring. When he recalled that she was one of the 8 fiend kings, he could not help but frown slightly. He asked, Tian Xiong, have you recovered from your injuries? What spirit herbs do you need? I can get them for you. Hehe, little Shitian, you're showing concern for me. Bai Hu's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. Don't worry. In this continent, there aren't many people who can take my life. Even those cultivators who haven't reached the transcending tribulation realm are no match for me. If they don't take advantage of the fact that I'm seriously injured to launch a sneak attack, they won't be my match in a direct confrontation. However, it's also fortunate that I was able to meet you in a desolate place like Tiger Hill. Qiao Yang chuckled. She reached out her jade-like hand and pinched a sparkling and translucent vermilion fruit from the jade plate in front of the table. She brought it to her lips. What exactly happened back then? Logically speaking, each of the 8 fiend kings should have the strength of a true fiend king. At the very least, they should have reached the 4th transformation realm of the demon core realm. Nowadays, all the cultivators above the transcending tribulation realm in the immortal cultivation realm have mysteriously left. Coupled with the demon clan's innate magical abilities, there shouldn't be anyone on this continent who can seriously injure you. However, back then, you were chased by a nascent soul realm cultivator. Di Shitian seriously looked at Bai Hu's charming face. He frowned slightly and asked a question that had been in his heart for a long time. Indeed, ever since he found out that Bai Hu was one of the 8 fiend kings, he had always been puzzled. If she was one of the 8 fiend kings, then her cultivation definitely wouldn't be lower than that of an ancient fiend king. After all, the title of fiend king was based on the ancient fiend king's cultivation. However, the first time he saw her, she was chased by a mere nascent soul realm cultivator at Tiger Hill. If she truly had the strength of an ancient fiend king, then wouldn't a nascent soul realm cultivator be like an ant in front of her? She could crush them with a single finger. How could she be chased by a nascent soul realm cultivator? There was clearly something strange about this. Now that they met again, he couldn't see through Bai Hu's true cultivation at first glance. This deepened the puzzlement in his heart. He guessed that perhaps something unusual happened back then, which caused her to suffer some kind of serious injury. Bai Hu heard him and rolled her eyes at him. However, she just smiled faintly. She picked up the wine cup and took a sip. As if she didn't want to talk about this topic, she directly changed the topic and said, "That's all in the past. There's no need to talk about it. By the way, I see that you've improved by leaps and bounds. The demon weapon in your hand is also extraordinary. I'm afraid that you're already the strongest among the 8 fiend kings. This time, I heard that second brother Meng wanted to invite you here. It seems that you want to participate in this immortal demon competition. She changed the topic to the immortal demon competition. Di Tian naturally wasn't someone who was easy to fool. However, seeing the white fox's words, it was obvious that she wasn't willing to mention the matter of that year again. If he were to forcefully drag the topic back, it would instead be awkward. He wasn't someone who liked to force others. Besides, the immortal demon competition was the same. He was very curious about it, so he went with the flow. Well, this time, the immortal cultivation world suddenly acted ruthlessly and wanted to destroy the foundation of the demon clan. I'm also a member of the demon clan. There's no reason for me not to come. However, Silverhair only briefly mentioned the competition in the Jade Talisman. I'm not very clear about the details. Now that I've met you, I think you should be very clear about it. If possible, I hope you can explain it to me. He looked at Baihu calmly, but quickly looked away. He picked up the wine cup and poured it into his mouth. Then, he picked up a few spiritual fruits and ate casually. He didn't say anything polite. Hee. Baihu pursed her lips and chuckled. She looked at him meaningfully with a serious expression. To be honest, I didn't expect you to come. However, the immortal demon competition this time is indeed very important. The competition isn't about winning or losing. Not about winning or losing? Di Tian raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, could there be more to it? Although it was a question, his tone was almost certain. The competition wasn't about winning or losing, but it was so important. There must be something that caught their attention. Almost instantly, he thought of this. Yes. The white fox nodded approvingly and said, the competition this time is not simple. The location is not here, but at the Tong Tian Tower. The reason why we agreed was because the cultivators said that the demon clan's most precious treasure, the demon transformation pool, is sealed within the tower. This demon transformation pool is far too important to our demon clan. Compared to it, the outcome of the competition is secondary. As long as we can obtain the demon transformation pool, it doesn't matter if we win or lose the competition. What? The Tower of Babel? The demon transformation pool? Why would the demon clan's treasure be sealed in the Tower of Babel? Before Di Tian could guess what these two things were, dark scream sounded in his mind. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he could imagine that it must be blowing its dragon whiskers and widening its eyes in the purple eye. Dark, do you know about the Tower of Babel and the demon transformation pool? Di Tian asked in his mind. He, who didn't know about the Tower of Babel and the demon transformation pool in ancient times? Since we've met today, I'll tell you about it. Otherwise, people will say that I'm ignorant. Nether let out two strange cries and spoke about the origins of these two items. There was no need to say more about the demon transformation pool. After Di Tian heard about it, he understood how important the demon transformation pool was to the demon clan. It was related to the demon clan's inheritance. With it around, the demon clan couldn't destroy it. It was just that after ancient times, its whereabouts were unknown. That was why the demon clan ended up in its current state. As for the Tower of Babel, well, its origins were not ordinary. In ancient times, the purple gold continent was the origin of heaven and earth. It was the source of all the worlds in the universe. However, at that time, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was so abundant that it couldn't be any more abundant. The people who lived on the continent were all races that were unbelievably powerful. Among them, the most terrifying and powerful race was not the demon race, but the barbarian race. Rather than the barbarian clan, they were more like savage beasts. At that time, life in the world was the most ancient. Because of the abundance of spiritual energy, all living things in the world were born with spiritual intelligence. This was the origin of the demon clan. However, the demon clan wasn't the most ancient existence at that time. Speaking of which, the first creatures to survive on the Zijin continent were the savage beasts. What were savage beasts? Among them, they had the word beast. In fact, it wasn't wrong to call them wild beasts. It was just that they were cruel by nature. The blood in their bodies was born with a kind of violent power. They liked to kill and were extremely irritable. Moreover, their sense of territory was extremely strong. Most savage beasts had relatively low intelligence, similar to the current ordinary birds and beasts. However, every one of them was extremely terrifying. Just for example, there was a savage beast called the reaper mantis. Its two forelimbs were like two blood-red scythes. Its body was very tall and sturdy, and its scythes were even sharper. With a casual wave, it could cut a small mountain. When it fought, the frenzied reaper mantis could slash hundreds of times in an instant. It was terrifyingly sharp. Moreover, in ancient times, every one of them contained an incredible and terrifying power. It was extremely terrifying. Their numbers were incomparably huge. Just like ordinary wild beasts, there would be a nest of them. Their numbers were unbelievably huge. During that time, it was almost completely a world of savage beasts. This period of history was called the wilderness, especially before ancient times. As soon as the demon clan was born, they immediately started a fierce battle with the savage beasts. In order to survive, they were fighting almost all the time. Back then, it could be said to be an extremely tragic era. Through countless massacres, the oldest batch of powerhouses had also grown. They used the comprehension in the battles and nature as their teacher to create the most ancient cultivation techniques. The demon clan was very powerful, especially those who could transform into demons in ancient times. Every one of them had accumulated strength for countless years. Once they transformed into demons, they would have incredible power. However, even so, compared to the overlords of the wilderness, they were still a far cry. In front of the terrifying savage beasts, the demon clan's living space shrank time and time again. They were oppressed to the point where they were almost annihilated. During that most difficult period, an expert of the demon clan, for some unknown reason, discovered a heaven-reaching pagoda. This heaven-reaching pagoda was something he saw with his own eyes. It grew from the ground layer by layer. It was indomitable. It was impossible to estimate how tall the heaven-reaching pagoda was. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens. He didn't know what kind of benefits that expert had gained after witnessing the growth of the Tower of Babel. But he didn't say anything. He returned to the yarrow race and called a few people close to him. After giving them a few instructions, he immediately went to the Tower of Babel and started a strange blood sacrifice. The Tower of Babel erupted with brilliant light. It covered the entire Zygene continent. A vortex appeared in the heaven-reaching pagoda. Wherever the light went, all the savage beasts, no matter how strong they were all wiped out. They were like wheat under a sickle. The savage beasts that had dominated the continent for countless years disappeared without a trace in a short day. It was as if they didn't exist at all. This also announced the end of the era of the savage beasts. Back in the ancient times. Later, the demon clan went to look for that expert. However, they didn't find anything. They only found out that the expert had started a strange blood sacrifice. The blood sacrifice required his entire life. What happened back then was an unsolvable mystery even in the ancient times. But since then, it was discovered that the savage beasts that had been taken away were living in the heaven-reaching pagoda. It was as if the savage beasts were moved from the continent to the heaven-reaching pagoda in a day. No one could explain why this happened. However, there were many experts who coveted the inconceivable power of the Tower of Babel and wanted to refine it. Unfortunately, none of them succeeded. Those who tried to refine it, no matter who they were, all died strangely in a mysterious blood sacrifice. Even the peerless experts were the same. At that time, all the experts understood that the heaven-reaching pagoda wasn't a powerful spiritual treasure. Instead, it was an unpredictable existence. It was indestructible, immovable, and immortal. With this precedent, no one dared to have any ideas about it. But the heaven-reaching pagoda became an unusual existence. Many experts didn't want to touch this thing. However, the savage beasts taken in by the pagoda took root in the pagoda and occupied the entire pagoda. From the bottom to the top, the strength of the savage beasts on each level was different. The stronger the savage beasts, the higher the level they lived in. Those on the first level were the weakest of the savage beasts. But they were not ordinary people who could stroke the tiger's whiskers. On the contrary, many experts liked to train in the pagoda. As long as they didn't die, their cultivation would increase greatly when they came out. But this training didn't have the support of elders. There was no superiority in the pagoda. Facing the savage beasts, the weak had to die. Only the strong could survive. This was an invisible rule. The heaven-reaching pagoda has such a mysterious origin. Di Shitian frowned slightly. He didn't expect the heaven-reaching pagoda to have such a great origin. He didn't expect there to be a wildland before the ancient times. As for the savage beasts, that was something he had never heard of. If it wasn't for Ming, he wouldn't have known about these secrets that even the ancient experts didn't know. Hee. The heaven-reaching pagoda is not a place to play. Not even 1 out of 10 people can come out. But those savage beasts are full of treasures. If you can come out, you will have a great harvest. Back then, my master took me in once and almost didn't come out. Ming didn't know if he was trying to attract or scare him. He just kept shouting. I will never forget that I met a strange savage bull in there. Its eyes were so powerful that even my divine soul would be annihilated when it stared at me. If it wasn't for my master's strength, I would have died there. There was a trace of fear in his words. It's so scary. Sakura furrowed his brows and began to think about why the immortal cultivation world would place the competition in the Tower of Babel. It should be impossible for them not to know the dangers in the tower. But knowing this, they still did it. Then the trick in it was worth it. For the demon transformation pool. He raised his head to look at Bai Hu and said in a deep voice. White Fox smiled calmly. He poured the wine and said, yes, the demon transformation pool is too important to the demon clan now. Even if we have to pay a high price to get it back, any price is worth it. He paused and continued, when the time comes, I will go in with you. The heaven-reaching pagoda is very dangerous. There are savage beasts everywhere. How can you be sure that the demon transformation pool is inside? If this is just a cover to trick us into going in, wouldn't we be courting death? Di Shitian felt a little heavy. He finally understood the function of the demon transformation pool. It was exactly the same as the purple thunder rain. It could indeed continue the bloodline of the demon clan. But the key was whether this news was true or false. If it was true, there was no harm in taking the risk. But if it was false, the consequences would be the loss of countless elites of the demon clan. It was possible that they would never be able to recover. No, it's not just the demon transformation pool. There's also the blood of savage beasts. The white fox looked at Sakura seriously and said, do you know about the blood of the savage beasts? According to legends, the blood essence in the heart of the savage beasts is the most essential part of their body. It contains enormous amount of energy and is used to enlighten the demon race. Just 1 drop is enough to turn a piece of rotten wood into a demon. It can be used to refine dance. It can be used to refine blood god dance that only existed in the ancient times. Every pill contains a huge amount of pure energy. A low-grade blood god dance can increase one's cultivation by hundreds of years. High-grade and top-grade ones are even more incredible. Since you want to enter the Tong Tian Tower, whether it's the demon transformation pool or savage beasts, as long as it's possible, you have to collect as much blood as possible. The blood of savage beasts contains a huge amount of pure energy. If you want to increase your cultivation, the Tong Tian Tower is the most suitable place. The white fox seemed to be consciously explaining these secrets to Sakura which other people wouldn't normally talk about. It then continued, fortune and misfortune are mixed in the pagoda, life and death are hard to predict. However, those who came out would definitely have a huge increase in their cultivation because they ate the meat and drank the blood of the savage beasts. The strength of savage beasts is all in their flesh and blood. It's hard not to increase their strength by eating and drinking like this. Di Shitian rarely interjected. He listened quietly and tried his best to absorb these things that were usually hard to know. This space was really strange. Bai Hu mentioned that it was an illusion formed by her special ability. However, Even if the Medusa outside were close to each other, she would not know what was happening here. It was very strange. Speaking of which, the Bai who was definitely a race blessed by the heavens. Each of the 9 tails possessed an innate ability. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 357. The 9-tailed celestial fox, when cultivated to the highest level, would grow 9 tails behind her back. Every day, each tail would bestow her with an innate magical power. In other words, once she really grew into the legendary 9-tailed celestial fox, she would have 9 incredible magical powers. From past experience, the magical powers bestowed by each tail were very wonderful. Unique. Therefore, in the demon clan, the 9-tailed celestial fox was also a very unique existence. It was said that in ancient times, there was a 9-tailed celestial fox in the Fox clan. Her strength was really strong. She was born with the ability to seduce, almost enough to subvert all living things, make the world lose its color, make all things wither, and thousands of women ashamed to death. That kind of beauty could no longer be described with words. It could be said to be the extreme of the art of seduction, making countless experts crazy. Since they were blessed by the heavens, but also envied by the heavens, so that every generation of the celestial fox lineage, there would only be one survivor. The two would not meet, and if they did, there was bound to be a disaster. They would fall into a situation where they would die a horrible death. Was it good luck, or bad luck? No one could really make a conclusion about it. Blood God elixir? Listening to Bai Hu's endless talk, as if she wanted to make up some knowledge for him, Di Shitian, while listening, seemed to have a flash of lightning in his mind. He suddenly remembered that he had seen the name of a kind of spirit wine in the wine god's treasure book, which seemed to be called emerald blood amber wine. Although because of the restriction placed by the wine god, he could only see the names of those spirit wines, but to know all the wine recipes, he had to brew the previous spirit wines one by one. Soaking the previous page in the wine with the spirit wine would open the second page of the spirit wine, which would show the brewing method and illustration of the spirit wine. Take the previous example. The first spirit wine was brewed, mysterious azure ice fire wine. After soaking it according to the method, the second illustration of the wine god's treasure book appeared, which recorded a spirit wine called Dream of 1,000 Years. This wine was very interesting. It did not increase cultivation or temper the body, but it could make people feel like they were dreaming of 1,000 years. Drinking it could make you recall many memories of the past. It was as if he had been dreaming for a long time. It was very interesting. Sometimes, drinking this kind of wine would actually result in a very good harvest. Perhaps, because of it, one of the demons in one's heart would be freed, and even one's mental state would be improved. Sometimes, memories were worth looking forward to. Maybe you can find something beautiful that you want to do but can't do. The recipe for this kind of spirit wine was actually not complicated. The most important thing was that it required a spirit quenching called dream recall grass, along with some other spirit herbs and spirit herbs. Only then could it be brewed. However, this kind of wine needed to be stored for at least 1,000 years before its effects could be completely brewed. Therefore, it could be considered quite rare. The dream recall grass happened to be obtained from a demon on Misty Wave Island. It was transplanted into the Shunnong's paradise map, and the other ingredients were not difficult to find. It had been brewed long ago. Now, it was placed in the Linglong treasure pagoda. With the pagoda's ability to reverse time, it sped up the brewing process. If it was placed in the second level, it would take about 20 years outside. With the reversal of time in the wine god's gourd, it would take another 10 times, and the time would be shortened. Calculating the time, it would not be long before it could be taken out and used. I wonder if the emerald blood amber wine would have an even more miraculous effect if it was brewed with the blood of savage beasts. Di Shitian inexplicably flashed through his mind. Who wouldn't want their cultivation speed to be faster? However, that group of cultivators said that we ancient demon kings are not allowed to participate in this competition. Moreover, Boss and the others really can't move easily. If they leave rashly, that group of cultivators might have ill intentions towards the other demons. It's only right to be on guard. In the end, after revealing most of the things that it knew, the white fox furrowed its brows and said one thing. Silver Hair and the others are not allowed to participate in the competition. Di Shitian's eyes shot out a ray of light, and he muttered, if the immortal cultivation world sends out a large number of cultivators above the nascent soul stage, I'm afraid we'll be at a disadvantage. How could he not know that in the current demon race, there was a huge gap in strength? It wasn't that there weren't any experts. The 8 great demon kings were all experts of the ancient demon king realm. However, the number of experts below them was exceedingly few. For example, those who had reached the first revolution of the demon core realm like Indra could be counted with one's fingers. In this way, it was almost obvious that they were at a disadvantage. Hee. Baihu chuckled meaningfully and shifted her body. The 2 peaks in front of her chest trembled a few times, full of temptation. Di Shitian felt his mouth go dry, and he shifted his gaze to the side. Shitian, don't worry too much. This time, they missed me. The injury I suffered last time was too serious. Although I have been quietly recuperating, I still haven't completely recovered. I haven't recovered the strength I had in the past, so I can participate in the competition. After staying in this illusion for a while, Baihu also removed the illusion. In a flash, in front of the floating cloud ship, Di Shitian and Baihu were standing in the void facing each other. Medusa was holding the strange mirror in her hand. A layer of clear light burst out from the mirror, shining in all directions. At this moment, the mirror was shining on Di Shitian and the others. Heavenly Fragrance Fox King, one of the 8 great demon kings, we've met before. After seeing Di Shitian and the others appear, Medusa's eyes flashed with a strange color, and she nodded to Baihu. In the southern barbarian lands, they were not rare. They were familiar with each other. As soon as they saw her, they immediately understood that the laughter from before should be from her. They looked at each other and saw that nothing had happened. Clearly, it was just a trick to tease them. They didn't care. Sister Medusa, I haven't seen you for a few years. Your cultivation has improved greatly. Congratulations. I'm afraid it won't be long before you catch up with me, Baihu said with a chuckle. The surrounding breeze blew, and the ribbon in her hand fluttered in the wind, like a fairy descending to the mortal world, filled with a bit of brilliance. Sister, you flatter me. Medusa smiled faintly. Back on the ship, under the guidance of Baihu, they soon arrived at the valley where the demon clan gathered. As soon as they arrived, Silver Hair and the others stood in the valley and waited. When they met, they had to be polite and introduce to each other. Fortunately, the demon clan didn't have too many complicated formalities. After introductions, they ate and drank together. As they chatted, they began to get familiar with each other. Di Shitian also got to know the other 3 demon kings for the first time, and his impression of them was not bad. In particular, the leader of the demon kings, the blood-winged rock demon king, was very curious about this seemingly weak demon king. Among the 8 demon kings, it seemed that each of them had an extremely strong pressure, but he only vaguely sensed a trace of a relatively dangerous aura from the rock demon king. Although this aura only lasted for a moment, it made him understand that the rock demon king was the leader of the demon kings. He was fully deserving of this title and definitely had the strongest strength. Hidden in this body, if it were to erupt, it would definitely have a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. That day, he directly opened a large cave in the valley and temporarily settled down inside. Hey, this curse mark is reacting at this time. Naturally, opening a cave was not difficult. There was no need to decorate the inside. He directly made a bed and sat cross-legged on it. Just as he was about to begin his daily routine of cultivation, he suddenly saw the strange mark on his right hand. The mark was in the shape of a pitch-black skull. The eyes on the skull were emitting a strange green light, as if they were alive and were staring at him. This mark was the strange curse mark that was formed when a black gas rushed into his hand after he killed the young master of the 5-element sect in the heavenly demon secret realm. However, there had been no changes all this time. If he wanted to dispel it, he did not know where to start. It was not that he had not tried, but this thing was very strange. If he dispelled it today, it would mysteriously appear again the next day, like a parasite in a tarsal bone. Over time, when he saw that it was not harmful, he temporarily put it aside. The person who died under my saberback then seemed to have said that he was the young master of the Five Elements sect. This is the Five Elements mountain range. According to Silverhair, there is a large sect called the Five Elements sect in the mountain range. Could it be here? Di Shitian looked at the skull mark on the back of his hand and thought to himself. In the past, he did not know the art of curses. However, now that he had obtained the inheritance of the curse mark from the ancient scroll, although he was still not very clear about it, he had a general understanding of the art of curses. To put it bluntly, the art of curses was an art of curses. Now that the art of curses was lost, and because they were too strange, they were called curses by the world. However, their power was actually the same. I did not expect to meet the person who cast the art of curses here. It seems that the sect master of the Five Elements sect should be the relative of the cultivator I killed back then. However, it will be a little troublesome to remove this art of curses. Removing this kind of art of curses was neither difficult nor easy. It was very simple. In fact, as long as the person who cast the art of curses was killed, the art of curses used to track and lock onto the target would naturally dissipate. It was not an overly powerful art of curses. It was only used for revenge. With the art of curses, even if they were thousands of miles away, one could clearly sense the other party's presence and launch a pursuit. It could be said that one would not rest until one was dead. He raised his eyes and looked towards the direction of the Five Elements peak. With this glance, even the thick stone walls were unable to obstruct his gaze. A sharp glint shot out from his eyes, and within the indifference was a ghastly killing intent. That's fine as well. If they don't provoke me, then so be it. If they come looking for trouble, then I'll kill both their sons and their fathers. After spitting out these words, he no longer paid attention to the skull imprint in his hand that was still flashing with a strange light. He closed his eyes and activated his art of cultivation, urging the Emperor's true force to circulate in the demonic veins around his body. The branches on the demonic veins also seemed to be glowing with vitality, spreading to the surrounding flesh and blood, constantly working hard to grow. Sooner or later, these branches would also connect with each other, covering every inch of the body's flesh and blood, connecting to form a complete meridian diagram. All around, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth madly rushed into his body, directly forming a spiritual chi vortex outside his body. At the same time, countless pitch-black power of desire was sucked into the demonic veins like a funnel, rushing into the third-grade Black Lotus in the demonic palace. The third-grade Black Lotus seemed to never stop, quickly rotating in the jade cauldron. Every time it absorbed a bit of spiritual chi and power of desire, the luster on its surface seemed to become more lively and rich. The 10 art of curses that seemed to grow on the Black Lotus strangely flew out from the Black Lotus, following the rotation of the Black Lotus, dancing in the surroundings, absorbing the surrounding energy. Even their light became much brighter. Old Meng, the Di Shitian you invited is indeed extraordinary, look. At this moment, in the sky above the valley, the Rock Demon King, dressed in white and holding a feather fan in his hand, stood side by side with Silverhair, looking at the cave opened by Di Shitian. In the eyes of ordinary people, there might not be any difference, but they could see that the spiritual chi in the valley was rapidly converging towards him. Waving his feather fan, he smiled faintly and said, he just started cultivating, but he was able to snatch more than half of the spiritual chi in the valley, and his speed is so fast. It seems that his cultivation is only at the first transformation realm, but in this situation, even among the 8 great demon kings, he is inferior. Do you see, the one beside him is 8th sister, he can even take more than half of her spiritual chi. Not simple, he is indeed blessed by the heavens. His talent is extraordinary. His words were filled with amazement, admiration, and more or less revealed a surprised expression. There was a trace of indescribable respect. Silverhair drank a mouthful of wine, his eyes full of vicissitudes swept a glance, and said indifferently, Brother Di has passed several stages in the path of questioning heart in the secret realm. His potential is so great that it is immeasurable. With his cultivation speed, it won't be long before another Demon King level powerhouse appears in our demon clan. Even surpassing you and me may not be a difficult matter. To be honest, Silverhair had definitely poured a lot of energy into Indra. Back then, in the secret realm, he had discovered that Indra actually had such a huge breakthrough. Not only had he reached the first transformation realm, he had even reached the peak of the first transformation realm. It seemed that he could step into the second transformation realm at any time. This kind of cultivation speed was extremely shocking. Monster, it was really a monster's cultivation speed. Yes, to be honest, after seeing Di Shitian, I really don't want him to go to the Tongtian Tower. If he dies there, the loss to our demon clan is almost irreparable. Even I can't see through his potential. Rock Demon King shook his head slightly. Don't worry, I believe that he is definitely a prodigy with great luck. He won't die so easily. Silverhair seemed to be very confident as he laughed. Bang! At this moment, in a quiet room on Five Elements Peak, a valiant middle-aged man was staring at a strange mirror painting in the void with his eyes wide open. He stretched out his hand and pointed at an incense burner at the side. A sharp golden sword chi bombarded the incense burner, instantly shattering the huge incense burner on the spot. Even the magic crown on his head was emitting rings of five-colored light. The anger in his heart seemed to be about to shoot out directly from his eyes. Looking carefully at the mirror painting in the void, what appeared in the painting was the scene of Di Shitian sitting cross-legged in the cave, cultivating. It was actually able to see his whereabouts out of thin air. Looking at Di Shitian's figure, if this person's gaze could kill, he would have killed him thousands of times in an instant and dismembered him into pieces. His eyes were filled with extremely dense hatred, and even his face became extremely ferocious. He gritted his teeth and said, "Good, good, good. Demon race, if I, Deng Tianhua, don't personally cut you into pieces, how can I vent the hatred in my heart? How can I avenge my son's blood feud? Not only will I cut you into pieces, but I will also bury the entire demon race with my son." When the cold voice was spat out, gusts of bone-chilling cold wind blew in the entire quiet room out of nowhere. He clenched his fists tightly, and even his nails cut his palms and blood flowed out. He didn't care at all. He just stared coldly at the mirror painting in front of him. Bang! At this moment, Di Shitian in the mirror painting seemed to have sensed something. He raised his eyes and looked at Deng Tianhua. His gaze seemed to be able to break through the boundary of space and see him through the mirror. The entire mirror painting suddenly suffered a great deal of damage. With a bang, it collapsed into countless pieces and dissipated into nothingness. This wasn't the real mirror painting, but the manifestation of a kind of supernatural power. Deng Tianhua's eyes were fierce, and he said coldly, "I have found you. Let's see where you can escape to. Since you are here, you must be here to participate in the Immortal Demon competition. Good, this time I will let you die without a complete corpse. Don't even think about participating in the competition. 8 great demon kings won't be able to stop me. Come out." With a shout, a large crack appeared at the bottom of the quiet room. From the crack, a bronze coffin quickly rose up. The coffin was suffused with a bronze light, and there were many talismans on it. These talismans were mysteriously circulating on the coffin. It looked unusually evil. Go and capture that demon for me. I want to kill him with my own hands." The bronze coffin shook violently, and the returning bronze light suddenly changed. Black gas filled the air and covered the entire coffin. Then, it instantly rushed into the crack below and escaped from the ground, directly passing through the earth. This mountain was filled with the power of the 5 elements. It was really strange that it could escape so easily. The crack also closed in an instant. This person was none other than the sect leader of the 5 elements sect. The cultivator that Di Shitian killed back then was his blood. At that time, when the curse mark appeared on Di Shitian, he had already noticed it. His heart was bleeding. Unfortunately, Di Shitian was in the secret realm at that time, and he couldn't enter. When the secret realm opened again and he wanted to seek revenge again, Silver Hair and the others led a group of demons to destroy hundreds of sects. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of him. As the sect leader, he couldn't leave at all. His heart was filled with anger, but he had to stay in the sect. He didn't expect that this time, Di Shitian would come to the Five Elements mountain range personally. On the spot, he connected with the curse mark. Through the mark, his image was captured in front of him. He saw his enemy with his own eyes. Chapter 358. The curse imprint itself had the ability to track. It would send the cursed target's figure to the owner, but this kind of mirror image across space could not be used at will. Only when the distance between them reached a certain distance and the curse imprint became extremely strong, could one see the other person's appearance through the imprint. This time, Deng Tianhua was completely driven mad. When he saw Di Shitian's figure, he really wanted to eat his flesh, drink his blood, and swallow him into his stomach. If not for the fact that he knew that at this moment, the Five Elements mountain range was a mix of good and bad people, and who knew how many experts had gathered, and that there were 8 great demon kings among the demon clan, he was afraid that he would have directly killed his way over. TSK. In an extremely remote and deserted mountain cave near the edge of the Five Elements mountain range, a strange and sharp demonic sound that caused one's heart to feel a chill continuously reverberated. There seemed to be a strange restriction in front of the mountain cave that blocked the waves of demonic sound and did not allow it to spread out of the cave. Through the restriction, one could see that the cave was actually filled with endless demonic chi. The pitch-black demonic chi continued to churn and filled every inch of space. Within the demonic chi, one could vaguely see many ferocious-looking demons appearing and disappearing. From time to time, they would let out a strange demonic cry. The dense demon chi had corroded the cave walls into a black color, looking very strange and evil. Moving forward along the demon chi, in the deepest part of the cave, there was an extremely burly figure, at least 2 meters tall. The muscles all over his body bulged as if they were alive, filled with a strong sense of strength. However, half of this person's face was covered with a hideous and terrifying demonic pattern, like black earthworms, that spread directly to his neck. A strong demonic nature gathered on his body. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the place he was sitting on was not an ordinary place. It was actually the mouth of a spring. What came out of the mouth of the spring was not clear spring water, but ink-black demonic chi. After the demonic chi came out, it drilled into the man's body. The demonic chi that permeated the entire cave was gushing out from this spring. There was a dilapidated palace floating above the person's head. There were countless demonic runes flowing on the palace, and they were also absorbing the surrounding demonic chi. The speed at which the demonic chi entered the palace was faster than the speed at which the person was absorbing it. It was like a huge whale swallowing seawater, gulping down mouthfuls of demonic chi into the palace. The more it devoured, the more demonic runes appeared in the palace. The dilapidated palace seemed to be slowly recovering under the devouring of the demonic aura. Some damaged areas were slowly mending, but the speed was extremely slow. If one did not observe carefully, it would be extremely difficult to notice. Di Shitian, I will definitely find you. Once I master my demonic arts, it will be the time of your death. The heavens are on my side. I'm afraid you would never have imagined that after you injured me, this Devil King would find this rare 9-yin Devil Cave. With the help of the endless devil energy in the Devil Cave, my devil cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. No matter what, I won't let you off for what happened back then. Kill. I will refine you into my devil guard. You will be under my control for life. The man who had obviously turned into a devil suddenly opened his eyes. The color of his eyes was actually blood red, and they flickered with a red light. It was extremely terrifying. He roared loudly in the cave. After roaring for a while, the man's hand formed another strange demonic seal, and the surrounding demonic chi rushed into his body. In the blink of an eye, his body was completely enveloped by the endless demonic chi, and even his figure could not be seen. Only the endless demonic chi was violently tumbling. In the cave, there were still a large number of devils flying around wantonly, making strange cries. However, this demonic chi was only limited to the cave. Outside, the vegetation was still green, and there was a shade of green. It was like an ordinary mountain forest, and it was very unique. In a cave in the valley where the group of demons gathered, Di Shitian opened his eyes slightly puzzled. He looked thoughtfully at the curse mark on his hand. Although he was in the midst of cultivation, with his sharp demonic consciousness, as long as anyone was near him, he would instantly sense it and wake up on the spot. This was an ability that one would have when one's cultivation reached a certain level. If there was hostility or killing intent, under the stimulation of the outside world, it was possible to launch a killing move the moment he opened his eyes. Just now, he suddenly felt as if there was a pair of eyes secretly watching him, and it immediately woke him up. However, when he glanced around, there was no second figure in the surroundings. Naturally, it was impossible that there was anyone watching him nearby. The only suspicious thing was the strange curse mark on his hand. The skull on the mark flashed with a green light, and it looked like a pair of eyes hidden in the darkness. Seal. Di Shitian pondered for a moment, and let out a cold snort. With a thought, the third-grade Black Lotus in the demon mansion immediately poured out a pure royal true force. It quickly passed through the demon veins in his body, and came to his right hand. Without hesitation, it rushed towards the curse mark. The royal true force was extremely domineering, and it had a kind of aura of supremacy. When it came in front of the curse mark, it immediately turned into a ferocious beast, and opened its mouth to swallow the curse mark. After a few cycles, the power in the mark was transformed into the royal true force, and the mark pattern on the back of Yuan Xian's hand naturally disappeared. However, Di Shitian knew that it was only the power of the curse that had been swallowed. The source of the curse had not dissipated, and it was still in his body. It would absorb the power of heaven and earth on its own, and it would reappear tomorrow. Doing this would not completely eradicate it. In the past, I might not have been able to do anything to you, but now, I have obtained the inheritance of the curse mark, and this tracking curse is also a type of curse technique. When there is time, I will refine you into one of my curse marks, and become my curse technique, and use it for me. However, it seems that the person who put the curse on me already knows about me. That feeling of being watched, he was sure that he was not wrong. There was definitely someone spying on him in the dark, and it was very likely that it was the person who put the curse on him. However, he was not afraid. No longer thinking about it, he closed his eyes and wanted to continue cultivating. Bang! However, it seemed that the heavens destined him to not be able to cultivate in peace today. Just as he was about to close his eyes, suddenly, there was a slight vibration under his body without any warning. Di Shitian's reaction was not slow. Almost in an instant, he did not even stand up, and his body directly moved a few feet forward. In mid-air, his body stretched out, and his feet stepped on the ground. At the same time, the stone bed that he was sitting on collapsed the moment he left, turning into thousands of pieces, and with a strong force, shot out in all directions. In the midst of the exploded pieces, a shining bronze coffin emerged from the ground, and a large number of talismans were flashing rapidly on it. The coffin turned and faced Di Shitian, and without any courtesy, it turned fiercely and domineeringly towards him. This collision was like the collision of stars. The domineering and fierce aura caused even the air to tremble violently, and the space shook violently, causing the surrounding rocks to fly wildly. However, as soon as they hit the bronze coffin, they were instantly smashed into pieces. Its speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of him. Break. Di Shitian's eyes flashed, and a layer of purple light circulated on the purple mark on his forehead. The majesty of the five extremes filled his entire body, and with a pat on his back, the tiger soul flew to the top of his head. He raised both of his hands up high, and at the same time, he held the tiger soul's slender hilt. The muscles on his arms instantly bulged, and coiled up like dragons. The Emperor's true power surged into the saber one after another. A layer of golden divine light appeared on the tiger soul's saber, and the figure of a divine tiger appeared on it. The sharp saber chi danced around wantonly. Kai Kai! The tip of the saber swallowed and spat out a saber light that was several feet long, forming a huge tiger soul. Holding the saber with both of his hands, he heavily slashed down at the bronze coffin that was charging towards him. The tiger soul's edge was unusually sharp and domineering. Wherever the saber passed, a huge saber mark was actually drawn in the air. It was so fast that it slashed onto the bronze coffin, and collided with the coffin's terrifying power without dodging at all. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Di Shitian only felt a huge recoil coming from the tiger soul, and his body was involuntarily pushed back by this power. His feet were nailed to the ground like divine needles, and with this retreat, he left a mark that was 2 to several feet deep on the hard rock. He was forcefully pushed back more than 2 feet. However, the tiger soul's saber strike was earth-shattering. In the entire world, it was as if there was only this saber light. The saber was filled with a huge amount of true power, and in an instant, the tiger soul's mighty power was activated. It was not an exaggeration. If this saber strike was outside, it could even split a mountain in half, and crack the earth. The tiger soul collided with the bronze coffin. Although the sacra was sent flying by the enormous force, the ferocious aura of the bronze coffin was also stopped on the spot. The coffin violently trembled. Although it didn't fly out, it stopped the momentum of the collision in midair. Clearly, it wasn't unaffected by the tiger soul. However, it was unknown what material the bronze coffin was made of. Under the sharp saber of the tiger soul, it actually only flashed a layer of talisman and blocked the saber light, not causing any damage to the coffin. It was extremely strange. Boom. After a slight pause, the bronze coffin shook violently. It turned around and charged towards Di Shitian again. It was still ferocious and domineering, like Mount Tai. Heaven-binding chains. Di Shitian's eyes focused, and his hand instantly formed a strange seal. After forming it, a huge amount of royal true power was released along with the seal. As soon as the seal was formed, the space in front of him suddenly trembled violently a few times. 3 golden chains suddenly appeared out of thin air. With a clatter, they wrapped around the bronze coffin like agile snakes. Throw a few tickets if you have one. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 359. They were extremely agile and appeared at different angles at the same time. They even appeared in front of the bronze coffin and bound the coffin in an instant. Boom. The bronze coffin itself had enough power to shatter a mountain, but now that it was bound by the 3 golden chains, it was like a raging bull suddenly had a rope tied around its head. The terrifying power instantly straightened the 3 chains, as if they were going to snap in an instant. However, the chains were extremely strange. The other end of the chains was directly inserted into the void, as if it was connected to the void. As the bronze coffin struggled, the void shook violently. Break. How could Di Shitian let go of such an opportunity? The tiger soul in his hand instantly shot out an endless amount of light. Instead of retreating, he took a step forward. With the tiger soul in his hand, he slashed with his saber from bottom to top. He held the saber with both hands and raised the saber to his shoulders. Without any hesitation, the huge saber light slammed into the bronze coffin, causing it to shake violently. The 3 chains shook violently, causing the void to shake. It was as if there was a terrifying existence in the coffin that wanted to break the chains. But once Di Shitian made the first move, he immediately didn't hold back in the slightest. Slash after slash, like moving clouds and flowing water, slashed out countless terrifying afterimages in the surroundings. Hundreds and thousands of slashes continuously landed on the bronze coffin that had appeared out of nowhere. The golden light of the blade was like a screen of blades that covered every inch of the coffin. This coffin was truly miraculous. The talisman on it would always emit a strange bronze light when the tiger soul landed on it. Although the light on the talisman would become much dimmer each time it blocked a slash, it did not diminish in the slightest as it forcibly blocked the storm-like attacks without damaging the coffin in the slightest. Roar. The bronze coffin shook violently and suddenly emitted an intense light that had never been seen before. Waves of grey gas surged out of the coffin and wrapped around the chains, causing them to shatter on the spot. The bronze coffin that was originally lying horizontally in the air instantly fell to the ground, shattering the solid rocks on the ground. With a crack, the bronze coffin lid that was tightly shut suddenly opened to one side. The moment the coffin lid was opened, a wave of grey and pungent gas surged out crazily. The disgusting smell of rotting corpses filled the entire cave in an instant. Corpse chi! Indra cried out with a trace of surprise in his mouth, but he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of air. His whole body emitted a dense demonic aura, which repelled the corpse aura in the surroundings. When the demonic aura and the corpse aura came into contact with each other, it actually emitted a strange kai-kai sound, which was like the sound of water and fire, and there was a green smoke floating at the edge. Poochie. Before he could react, from the opened coffin, a silver-white claw that was covered in long hair and shining with a silver light and 3 feet long clawed at Di Shitian's heart like lightning. Looking at the sharp claws that cut through the air and cut through the void like sharp blades, one could tell that this claw was as sharp as a divine weapon and terrifying. If it landed on the chest, one could believe without a doubt that it would be able to pull out a warm and bloody heart. Fast. Unbelievably fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, this silver claw had already appeared in front of Di Shitian's heart. It would not even take a second to break open the chest and pull out the heart. However, it seemed that this possibility was infinitely delayed. With a dang, this claw did not grab the heart, but a sharp blade. The blade of the blade spurted out and burst out, bursting into the claw. There was a sound of metal colliding with each other. The 5 sharp claws and the blade burst into fierce sparks. Sparks were created. Peng. Di Shitian took this opportunity to raise his right foot and step on the tall body in front of him. The tyrannical true power contained in his foot suddenly exploded and the opponent's clothes instantly turned into fine powder. Strands of long silver hair were blasted and fell down. But its body gave off a hard feeling as if he was stepping on a big iron mountain. It was as if it was not a body of flesh and blood, but a bronze man made of fine iron. It was like an Iron Man. It was truly invulnerable. Zombie, what a powerful zombie. A silver body, could it be a silver-armored zombie? Di Shitian's mind quickly flashed with a thought. Borrowing the power of that kick, the corner of his eyes had already taken in the appearance of the figure in front of him. It was a zombie with long hair, a silver-white body, and a dense corpse aura emitting from its body. The zombie's eyes revealed a bloodthirsty red light. Its entire body was invulnerable, impervious to fire and water, and its movements were as fast as lightning. It did not have the so-called clumsiness of zombies. His heart secretly trembled. The aura emitted from this zombie was extremely valiant. He could feel that this body contained an extremely terrifying power. When the tiger soul slashed on its hand, only a small crack appeared, and it healed in the blink of an eye. The zombie's undying body was extremely terrifying. Hey, Shitian, you're really in a good mood. Where did you find this little zombie from, to touch you to practice your blade? At this moment, the silver-armored zombie in front of Di Shitian quickly pounced on him. 2 strands of silver-white corpse aura spurted out from its nose. It congealed and did not disperse, like a long snake rolling towards him. The sharp claws in its hands danced quickly, and the sharp nails drew out countless sharp after-images. The sharp sound of the claws piercing through the air was still intensely ringing in his ears. Di Shitian's expression turned serious. Just as he was about to cross swords with the zombie again, a seductive laughter suddenly sounded from outside the cave. As soon as the laughter fell, a plain white figure had already appeared in the cave. Without waiting for Di Shitian to make his move, a rainbow-colored ribbon broke through the air and rolled towards the silver-armored zombie. This roll appeared to be very casual, but it easily wrapped up the silver-armored corpse, which had extraordinary strength, copper tendons, and iron bones, and wrapped it up like a rice dumpling. The other end of the ribbon was impressively held in by Hu's hand. With a shake of her wrist, the ribbon transmitted a force, and the wrapped zombie was smashed against the stone wall of the cave. With a loud bang, the zombie actually smashed a big hole in the hard mountain rock. The ribbon shook again, and once again wrapped around the zombie, and continued to smash it in all directions. For a moment, the rumbling sounds were unceasing. In the blink of an eye, the perfectly good cave was smashed into thousands of holes. Raw. Being smashed here and there like this, the zombie was about to get angry. The eyes of the wrapped zombie emitted a strange red light, and with a roar, it shook the cave unceasingly. Its originally extremely tall and sturdy body violently swelled, and in an instant, it became one size bigger. Extremely dense corpse aura was spat out from its body. 10 sharp nails scratched on the ribbon, and with a swish, the ribbon was torn apart from the middle. The zombie was released from the ribbon's binding. As soon as it came out, it seemed to have sensed that Bai Hu was not to be trifled with. It actually dashed into the bronze coffin like lightning, and with a bang, the lid of the coffin was closed again, not leaving the slightest gap. The coffin trembled, and drilled into the ground. As soon as it touched the ground, it was immediately like a sponge touching water, and easily drilled into the soil. From the looks of it, it actually wanted to escape. Humph, want to leave? It's not that easy. With a flash of light in Di Shitian's hand, a snow-white 9-string zither appeared in his hand. This 9-string zither had 9 strings. Among them, 8 were sparkling and translucent like beautiful jade, but the remaining one was entirely earthy yellow, and on the string condensed an inconceivably large amount of earth origin. Di Shitian did not even look at it. He reached out and placed his hand on the earthy yellow string, and with a fierce pull, he released it. Hum! A wave of earthy yellow sound waves swept towards the bronze coffin like a tide. One could see with the naked eye that wherever the earthy yellow sound waves passed, the ground below also trembled like waves. In the blink of an eye, the ground became incomparably hard, like diamond. Even if one were to cut the ground with a knife, it would be difficult to leave a mark on the ground. He actually turned earth into steel with a single hand. It just so happened to target some of the 5 elements escape techniques. The bronze coffin was obviously traveling through the earth. This time, as soon as it entered the earth, it was trapped inside. In addition, the force that erupted from the violent tremors of the ground was all applied to the bronze coffin. At this moment, the coffin suffered countless fierce bombardments. Rumble. It was unknown what kind of treasure the bronze coffin was. At this juncture, the countless talismans on it burst out with unprecedented light. A powerful force appeared on the coffin, breaking free from the shackles, breaking through the shackles, and escaping into the distance. However, the moment it escaped, the light on the bronze coffin became extremely dim. There was no trace of luster, and the talismans became incomparably illusory, as if they could disappear at any time. It quickly traveled through the earth and escaped into the distance. Hey, when did your zither become so powerful? Bai Hu looked at the 7 sins demonic zither in Di Shitian's hand in surprise and said with slight surprise, the sound waves just now had the power of the 5 elements earth. Where the sound waves reached, even the earth could be controlled. Even if it is a natal demon artifact, it is only at the level of a magic treasure. How can it be so powerful? Her eyes looked around and finally landed on the bead on the zither. When she saw the origin of earth flowing on the bead, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. She raised her head and looked deeply at Di Shitian. She seemed to be deep in thought, but did not continue to say anything. What was the matter with that zombie just now? Why did it suddenly come to your cave abode? Could it be that those immortal cultivators did something again? Bai Hu changed the topic and asked about what happened just now. Someone is looking for me for revenge. Di Shitian looked indifferent. He put away the 7 sins and put the tiger soul back into the scabbard. He did not think that the zombie would attack him rashly. Moreover, he felt like he was being watched before. The only possibility was that the person who cursed him sent it to seek revenge. If you have the ability, please help me subscribe. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 360. Haha. It seems that you really have a lot of enemies, and they are everywhere. In the Southern Barbarian, there was the 1000 Beast sect, and here, there are zombies automatically coming to your door. You really don't lack enemies wherever you go. However, the bronze coffin just now was very extraordinary. I don't know who made it, but it even broke free from your method of transforming earth into steel. The white fox retrieved the ribbon and wrapped it around her arm again. The section that had been torn apart by the silver-armored corpse had been restored to its original state at some point in time. It was miraculous, as if it had never been torn apart. By the way, if it is not necessary in the future, it is best not to show your 7 sins demon zither in front of others so easily. If someone takes a fancy to it, be careful not to cause unnecessary trouble. Bai, who suddenly added another sentence, rolled her eyes at him, and said, I really don't know where you get your luck from. Treasures of heaven and earth that others may not be able to find after thousands of years, but you easily get them one by one. If it were not for you, but someone else, even I would have snatched them. There was a kind of coquettish and indignant tone in her words, as if she was annoyed that she did not have that kind of luck. The heavenly treasure box that she brought out from that dangerous place with great difficulty turned out to be some puzzles that she did not like the most. When she looked at it, she saw stars and felt dizzy. She could not find the slightest pattern at all. She had benefited Di Shitian. Now, on a life demon artifact, there was a rare treasure that could not be found in 10,000 years. She had extraordinary eyesight. Although it was only a glance, she could see that it was extraordinary from the method of transforming earth into steel. She also felt the extremely rich origin of earth in it. It was obviously not an ordinary item, and it was in the shape of a bead. The first thing that was similar to it was the spiritual item of heaven and earth, the earth spirit bead of the 9 spirit beads. This spirit bead was a treasure that was desired but could not be found anywhere. Obtaining one would have the opportunity to transform one's body into the legendary born Taoism aptitude. If it was known, it would immediately cause endless trouble. Who knew how many jealous people would rush to snatch it? Without absolute strength, such a treasure should not be revealed easily. Yes. Di Shitian nodded slightly. Looking at the large crack on the ground, he said thoughtfully, zombies are indeed extremely evil. Their entire bodies are made of copper and iron, invulnerable to swords and spears, and impervious to fire and water. Moreover, they are born with divine strength and extraordinary strength. The corpse poison on their bodies is rather overbearing and vicious. Just the silver-armored corpse alone is strong enough to fight against my tiger soul head-on. I wonder how strong the gold-armored corpse on the floor above will be. In the past few days, he had encountered zombies twice in a row. The first time was on the way to the 5 Elements mountain range, and the second time was here. He could not be wrong about the same corpse aura, especially the one who was wandering around with the black coffin on his back. He could clearly feel that he was definitely stronger than the silver-armored corpse. Zombies wander about the 3 realms and the 6 Daos. They are both dead and alive. They are unfathomable existences in the world. It is said that the ancestor of the zombies, Jiang Chen, was no weaker than the strongest cultivators in the world. In fact, he was even stronger. Zombies are neither dead nor alive. In fact, it's even stronger than our demon clan's demon body. A cool breeze blew through the cave. The rock demon king had a faint smile on his face. He held a feather fan in his hand and gently waved it. His clothes fluttered as he walked in. Behind him, the other demon kings also walked in. Smelling the faint corpse aura in the air, he said with a faint smile, "The cultivation world is still the same. I don't dare to say that they ambushed others, but it seems that they went for wool and came back to bite them. Brother Di, with your current cultivation, you are already at the peak of the first transformation. It seems that it won't be long before you can step into the second transformation. Unfortunately, the battle is imminent. I'm afraid there won't be enough time for you to break through. Otherwise, if you can reach the second transformation, you will have the power to protect yourself on the first floor of the Tongtian Tower." Silver Hair also stepped forward with a faint smile. His eyes were full of vicissitudes as he glanced at Di Shitian. The surprise and heartfelt congratulations in his words were not fake at all. After cultivating the Book of Shocking Huangji, Di Shitian's cultivation realm would be shrouded in a layer of fog unless he fought with others personally. No matter how powerful one was, it would be difficult to see through his realm unless one's cultivation was much higher than his. Otherwise, one could only guess from the aura he emitted. Baihu could see through his realm because she lured him to make a move in the illusion. At this moment, Silverhair and the others could see through his aura when he fought with the bronze coffin just now. Silverhair couldn't help but be amazed. Di Shitian's cultivation speed was really too unexpected. Although he knew that he had a breakthrough in the secret realm, he didn't expect that in such a short time. Not only did he break through to the first transformation, but he also reached the peak of the first transformation. He could enter the second transformation at any time. With this speed, he had such an incredible breakthrough in just a few years. In the Yarrow clan, he was definitely the only one. He didn't know that Di Shitian had obtained a heaven-defying treasure like the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. It could reverse time. A few decades inside was only a few years outside. He didn't know this. Even with his calm mind, he was shocked on the spot. Everyone, there is still half a month before the competition. I want to go into seclusion for a while. I will come out before the competition begins. Di Shitian took a deep breath. His expression was calm. He nodded to the Rock Demon King and the others and suddenly said something that surprised them. You want to go into seclusion at this time? The White Fox was slightly annoyed as she said, Shitian, what are you trying to do now? It's not even a month until the competition and you're suddenly going into seclusion. Don't tell me you're thinking of breaking through to the second transformation of Yaodan in such a short period of time. Eighth sister, since Brother Di wants to go into seclusion, there must be a reason. The Rock Demon King extended his feather fan and gently stopped Baihu. He said with a smile, Brother Di, you can go into seclusion here. I don't think those cultivators will dare to come. Later, I will set up restrictions around the area. If no one comes, then it's fine. If anyone dares to sneak attack, then they can't leave. However, most of the young experts of my Yarrow clan will come this time. If you have time, you should interact with each other. Get familiar with each other. When we enter the Sky Split Tower, we can take care of each other. Many thanks, Demon King. Di Shitian nodded but was stopped by the Rock Demon King with a smile. Haha, if you think highly of me, then call me Big Brother Shue. I had a name in my early years, Shue Wuya. The Rock Demon King's words were slightly intimate. Okay, then I'll call you Big Brother Shue in the future. Di Shitian naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity to get closer to each other. He nodded and agreed. Seeing that there was nothing to do, and hearing Di Shitian mention that he was going to cultivate in seclusion, the other demon kings also wanted to get close to him, but they all knew that now was not the time, so they all left with a smile. Baihu rolled her eyes at him flirtatiously and also walked out. For a time, he was the only one left standing in the cave residence. Looking at the cave residence, because of the previous battle, it was extremely messy. There were broken stones everywhere, and even a huge crack in the ground. This was very troublesome for ordinary people, but Di Shitian just waved his hand casually and pushed all the surrounding stones into the crack. He smoothed the crack and set up restrictions around it. The 7 Sins demonic zither flew out of the Yarrow residence and placed on the stone bed. The strings of the zither vibrated slightly, and a strong suction force was immediately emitted. All around, strands of darkness gathered toward the 7 Sins demonic zither as if they had spirituality. In the blink of an eye, the entire cave residence was filled with the rich power of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, occupying every inch of space. It could be expected that as long as one entered here and touched them, something bad would definitely happen. Just this dense power of desire alone was enough to surpass countless restrictions. Then he took out the exquisite creation pagoda and shrunk it to the size of a speck of dust. With a flash, he entered the pagoda. He did not stop at the first level, but directly went to the second level. With a 50-fold reversal time, half a month was enough for him to stay in the pagoda for 2 years. In these 2 years, if he used it to break through the realm, it might be very difficult. He didn't want to break through at this time. What he wanted to do was to condense the curse imprint on his hand into his own curse imprint. Remove this curse. The root of the curse technique is the curse imprint. The condensation of the curse imprint is to use one's own curse power to condense one's thoughts, to wander to the boundless realm of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, to use the endless desires of all living beings as thoughts and obsessions as sustenance to condense an indestructible obsessions that can be used by oneself. Turning this indestructible obsessions into a curse imprint, to display a mighty power that can shock heaven and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. Di Shitian sat cross-legged on the grass. Some of the root of the curse technique that he had comprehended from the 10 curse imprints in the past appeared in his mind. What was the most terrifying thing in the world? Obsessions. Obsessions came from desire, a desire that could never be satisfied in one's heart. In the power of desire, there were endless desires and obsessions. These obsessions were formed from the desires of countless living beings. No matter how powerful an expert was, it was impossible to make them disappear. Similar obsessions gathered in the void. For example, the obsessions of lust. When countless obsessions related to lust gathered together, it would give birth to an indestructible obsessions related to lust. This obsessions was a combination of lust, desire, and lust, and would almost never be extinguished. In this indestructible obsessions, there were countless desires related to lust. If there was a curse technique master who wandered to this indestructible obsessions and didn't lose himself in this obsessions, he could obtain a wisp of obsessions related to lust and bring it back to his body. Then, this wisp of indestructible obsessions would be condensed into a curse imprint, and he would obtain a curse technique. It was quite dangerous for a curse technique master to practice curse techniques, especially when looking for a suitable obsessions. It was necessary to understand the most fundamental technique of the curse technique master, the divine sense separation technique. It could separate the divine sense from the main body and use a wisp of the divine sense to wander to the void of desire. If the divine sense was eroded by the obsessions, it could be given up in an instant. If the main body was damaged, it could be recovered in the end. It would not be completely lost and beyond redemption. Chapter 361. It was impossible for a cursemancer to absorb the power of desire directly like Di Shitian. They had to be careful even when they touched it. Once there was an accident, they would be doomed eternally. Therefore, the divine thought separation technique was the most fundamental technique for a cursemancer. Those who had not achieved the initial success in this technique would not be allowed to wander into the void of desire. When the divine thought separation technique reached the initial success, one would be able to divide one's own divine thoughts into several parts and use the separated divine thoughts to replace the danger of one's own body. This technique was very magical and would not be taught to anyone who was not a direct disciple. It was impossible for anyone who was not a cursemancer to know about it. However, this magical technique had been passed down since ancient times. Therefore, when a cursemancer practiced, every step forward was accompanied by endless danger. One careless step could lead to eternal damnation in the blink of an eye. Today, I'll deal with you once and for all. I'll get rid of this parasite. Di Shitian thought to himself. A touch of determination flashed across his eyebrows. He had not completely erased the curse mark before. Firstly, it was a matter of time. Secondly, it did not bring any great loss to him. However, the appearance of the bronze coffin made him feel like he had to completely eliminate this threat. In order to avoid those kinds of sneak attacks appearing one after another, he also didn't want his every move to be under the surveillance of others. The instant the bronze coffin left, such a thought appeared in his mind. Since he had already made up his mind, he didn't want to have the slightest hesitation. He immediately decided to go into seclusion. In the Linglong treasure pagoda, he had plenty of time to search for the curse mark. TSK, Di Shitian, no wonder you have today's achievements. Once you make a decision, you do it without hesitation. This kind of decisive action is the easiest way to become an ambitious and ruthless person. You are decisive and meticulous. You have the potential to become an expert. However, if I am not wrong, the curse on you should be the most commonly used curse among cursemancers, Soul Eater. Ming's voice suddenly appeared in Di Shitian's mind. He was about to use his divine thoughts to search for the curse mark when Di Shitian was about to stop. Soul Eater. Sakra's thoughts turned and he said, "This curse didn't display any powerful means on my body. At best, it's only a kind of curse technique used to track and search, to lock onto the location. How could it have such a strange name? Could it be that the curse is incomplete? Heh, I have to say that your brain is very flexible. You actually thought of this in a flash." Ming let out a strange cry and said, "All those years ago, this soul devour technique was a technique that every single cursemancer was capable of. When it was executed, it didn't just possess the ability to track, search, lock onto one's location, and so on and so forth. The most domineering aspect of this technique was that so long as its owner utilized it, it would be like a myriad of ants gnawing away at one's soul. It wouldn't take one's life for a short period of time, but it would cause extreme pain. The pain of having a myriad of ants gnawing away at one's soul caused countless people to take their own lives before anyone else could do anything. But from the looks of it, the one who used the curse wasn't a real cursemancer at all. The ability to track and search was already the limit. Otherwise, even if you could absorb the power of desire, you would still be in trouble." Ming's description made one's heart turn cold, but one had to admit that this technique was definitely a very good technique if it was used well. Since it has such power, then all the more reason for me to control it. Sakra smiled indifferently, and the divine light in his eyes became even more resolute. He closed his eyes, and his hands formed a strange hand seal. The shape of the hand seal was like a lotus, and the moment it was formed, the power of desire in the surroundings gathered towards the position of the hand seal, and in an instant, his divine sense quickly entered his body, turning into thousands of strands, and quickly searched every inch of his flesh and blood. He wanted to find the source of the curse mark and absorb it for his own use. Bang! In the quiet room on the Five Elements Peak, Deng Tianhua slammed his palm heavily on the ground. The power from his palm blasted a huge deep pit in the ground. In front of him, the bronze coffin that attacked Di Shitian was floating. The countless talismans on the bronze coffin that were glowing with divine light had dimmed and become extremely illusory, as if they could be destroyed at any time. It seemed very weak. How could this be? Could it be that the demon has the same cultivation as the 8 great demon kings? Impossible. How could he resist the silver-armored corpse that I raised with this bronze coffin that is the best at raising corpses from the ruins? He even damaged the bronze coffin to such an extent that even the talismans are about to collapse. What kind of strength does that demon have? Deng Tianhua screamed hysterically in this empty quiet room with a ferocious face. With a trace of madness in his eyes, he stared at the bronze coffin. After a long time, he sneered, "Good, good, good. Don't be so smug. That freak most likely came here for the immortal demon duel. Since he couldn't even kill you with a sneak attack, then I'll show you what's good for you in Skysplit Pagoda. I'll make sure you don't have a good death." That voice came out from the gaps between his teeth. It could be seen how deep the hatred in his heart was. At this moment, in the guest room of the Five Elements sect that was used to entertain other sects, there was a middle-aged man wearing a blood-red robe. Blood clouds surged around his body as he spat out a ray of blood-red light. In front of him, a blood-red banner floated. A large amount of blood-red aura continuously surged into the banner. As the banner fluttered, it stirred up the air and let out a strange whistle. Suddenly, the blood-red cloud on the banner surged and a blood-red figure appeared. This blood-red figure's appearance was very similar to the middle-aged man in front of him, as if they were made from the same mold. However, one was young, while the other was old and dignified. "Father, Father, you must save me. I don't want to stay in this damned blood cloud banner for the rest of my life." The blood-red figure appeared and looked at the blood-red robed man in front of him. He opened his mouth and loudly cried out. His voice was filled with tears of blood, making people who heard it feel sorrowful. "My son, don't worry. Father will definitely let you be reborn again. All these years, I have been preparing a perfect body for you. Even if I have to pay a great price, I will let you obtain a blood god's body that is most suitable for cultivating my sect's great technique." Now, all that is missing is all kinds of powerful blood to condense the blood god's body. You will definitely be able to find it in Tongtian Tower. It won't be long before you can be resurrected again and obtain a new life. Moreover, once you are reborn, you will have the powerful cultivation of a nascent soul. The blood-red robed man looked at the blood-red figure with a deep affection in his eyes. It was as if he wanted to give all of his precious things to the other party. Father, revenge. You must avenge your son's death. Di Shitian, I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. The blood-red figure's face was malevolent as he let out a series of hysterical roars. That roar was filled with dense hatred that couldn't be dispersed. Yinyi, don't worry. Father has already investigated Di Shitian. Although your senior brother Di Shitian entered the devil path in the Zither Music Valley and is still missing, he has exposed his identity. He is a demon clan. Moreover, he is a demon king who has condensed his Niden. If nothing unexpected happens, Father will be able to find traces of him this time. When the time comes, I will personally capture him for you so that you can avenge your own blood feud. I will make you a blood sacrifice for your rebirth. The blood-red robed man's eyes flashed with a thick evil aura, carrying with it a fierce light. He fully displayed the power of a ferocious demon. Father, you must not be careless. That Di Shitian is extremely strange. When I first saw him, he directly emerged from the ground. His body was filled with a strange sadness. Even I fell into his trap and died. If it wasn't for Father's life-saving treasure, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to see you again today. So Father, you must be very careful. Xue Ini had deep feelings for his father after all and hurriedly reminded him. He was afraid that his father would be at a disadvantage. Gradually, Di Shitian's enemies came one by one to the Five Elements mountain range. It was unknown whether it was a blessing or a curse. Chimph, I finally found you. You actually merged into your blood. If I hadn't released all of my divine sense to seal every inch of your flesh and blood, I'm afraid it would be difficult to find you. However, since I have found you, don't even think about escaping. Emperor True Force, born of desire, devouring brand. In the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, Di Shitian used his divine sense to search every inch of flesh and blood. Every place he searched was covered with an invisible restriction, weaving an incomparably huge net, immediately sealing and wrapping all of his flesh and blood. He didn't let go of any inch of flesh and blood, thoroughly sweeping through in the form of a filter. Step by step, he was searching in the most cautious way. Finally, when he searched the heart meridian, he found a trace of seedling in the blood. Immediately, countless divine sense quickly gathered and trapped the cursed brand, sealing it at the heart meridian. The brand showed signs. Di Shitian looked carefully and found that the brand in front of him was also a brand like a curse. However, compared to the 10 curse seals he had absorbed before, this brand was not only simple but also extremely illusory, as if it was not complete and some part was missing. It was constantly changing its shape, very strange. It looked as if it would break at any time, but tenaciously existed. Even if it was trapped, it still wanted to escape. So the brand is not complete and is missing a part. No wonder it only has such a little power. Watch me devour you. Di Shitian's mind moved, and the Emperor True Force immediately turned into a fierce tiger, pouncing and swallowing the brand on the spot. He turned and quickly returned to the demon mansion. The Emperor True Force itself contained the power of desire. In its essence, it had the characteristics of desire. Compared to the power of desire, it was even more mysterious and beyond. Once the brand was wrapped up, it was as if it had seen a king. It did not dare to resist at all, obediently not daring to move, and was directly brought into the demon mansion. Arriving in the air above the third-grade Black Lotus. The 10 mysterious curse seals on the Black Lotus seemed to have sensed something and flew into the air one after another. Sigh, today I suddenly have to face a choice that affects my life. My heart is full of confusion and uneasiness. This kind of feeling, I have never felt before. So annoying, so distressing. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.